Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. It is Wednesday. It is Whiskey Wednesday. It is episode 154. Tonight, we've got a similar format, but a little bit different. We're going to start with our special guest. We've got Brandon from Bourbon Charity. Really happy to have him on. A very cool organization we want to learn more about. We are going to be smoking the Leaf by Oscar, which you can't really see all that well, but we'll talk about it a little bit, and we'll make sure to put a little bit more information on it. There's a picture that you took, Nate, on the page.
Yeah.
On the community page.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll get into that a little bit, as well as the Russell's Reserve Straight Rye 6 year, the basic rye that they have out. Fantastic bottle. We're going to be pouring that tonight as well as we talk to Brandon. And then we'll give kind of the review of the cigars, talk a little bit about those towards the end of part one. And then the second part, continue with the charity theme. We're going to be talking about life, and we're going to be talking about give or take as the topic tonight for part two. So guys, stick around, share it, like it, all that good stuff. I want to thank our sponsors here right off the rip. You guys on patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. We've got new shirts going to be coming here in the next month, hopefully. And then we'll have those giveaways. Ian, if you're already listening, we're getting your 3Xs. Don't worry. We appreciate the support from everyone. We had one of our patrons actually bump theirs up from the $5 tier to the $10 tier recently. So that's fantastic. Nice. So thank you very much for doing that. And then also Tinder Box at Easton for the Leaf by Oscar. The Sumatra is the one we're smoking tonight. We appreciate the support. Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Great shop, cigar shop. Altadis USA. We've got the Monte Cristo Espada Oscuro as the next cigar for part two. So thank you, Josh and Altadis and Monte Cristo for those and the continued support, as well as BS Cigar Company. I'm wearing a BS. Well, Nate, you're wearing the same one. All right.
I wore the black one last week.
All right. I should have looked.
Well,
my fault.
I should bring both.
It's all right. I live here. So anyways, BS Cigar Company, we've got the gold and silver. They're in stock. I've got a couple of golds here, and I was smoking a silver earlier. Fantastic stuff. Check them out. They're exclusive to the Tinder Box at Easton, but also you can contact them. We'll ship you anything you guys need for the BS cigars and get you guys all set up on that. That being said, I'm sorry to keep him waiting. We'll get down to business here, and I want to welcome Brandon. How are you doing? Brandon Hunt with Bourbon Charity.
Doing awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Where are you coming from? Coming to us from?
Arizona, sunny Arizona.
I was going to say, it's a lot sunnier there.
Yeah. There's still light shining through that window, so I knew he wasn't on the East Coast.
That's awesome. What's the temperature out there?
Let's see. It was 72 degrees right now, so I should not have a sweatshirt on.
Yeah, it's 25 here, so I think you got us beat by a little bit.
We got to rub it in while we can. You know, we got a couple more months before the 100 degrees creep in it.
That's true. Yeah, grass is not always greener. You're absolutely right. So tell us a little about, we got this event coming up, and it's called Roses for Kids. And so tell us, I guess, a little bit more about that. You've been in charity for about 2 years, but kind of give us a little bit of background of what you're up to. You're the chairman of this organization, and where you're going with it, and then a little bit just that background first on why you started it, or why it got started, and where it's going.
Yeah, like you said, we're about 2 years in. It started when kind of got hit with life. My dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer. It was supposed to be a routine surgery to remove his prostate, turned into just a month-long battle in the hospital. And it just kind of woke me up that I really wanted to do something to, give back, to help fund cancer research. So was a big bourbon guy from Kentuckiana. And I had that bourbon collection. I was like, I wonder if there's other people out there kind of like me, love bourbon, but also love the charity aspect, and wanted to combine them both to see how much good we could do together. And so that first fundraiser on Father's Day of 2019 ended up raising $75,000. So really kind of knew we were on to 75,000 in less than 90 days of, starting up the organization. So a huge number, a lot of support. I think in that one fundraiser, we had like 1,200 different donors contribute to that fundraiser. So we just kind of parlayed that into another fundraiser on Thanksgiving. Said, let's just keep doing this. If this is a thing, getting rare and allocated bourbon and having a chance in a raffle to win it, to support some great organizations. let's kind of be that bridge between the bourbon and the charity. And so we've just kind of rolled with it. Now we're almost 2 years in, about $1 million raised, over 8,000 supporters. And as you mentioned, we have a fundraiser coming up, Roses for Kids fundraiser, supporting 3 children's organizations: St. Jude Children's Tumor Foundation, Texas Children's Hospital, Phoenix Children's Hospital, and Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. So great organizations to support. We have some great bourbon prizes. We have some gaming systems. We have the new PS5, Xbox, Oculus that we threw in there. So really fun raffle we have going on to support the kids this Valentine's Day.
Wow.
That's a lot in 2 years. And how'd you get a PS5? I got to ask. Is it donated or do you like stand in line? I mean, I feel like I saw this on social media, over the holidays that,
unfortunately, eBay, unfortunately we had to go eBay to get that. Able to get the Xbox and Oculus, but the PS5 had to go secondary.
That's fair. Did you get a good deal on it? Probably not. That's why it's higher up on the list, I imagine.
Probably. Yeah, I think we paid like $900 for it, all said and done. So cheap, but unfortunately, we pay secondary pricing for Pappy. So you put that in perspective.
I was getting ready to say, still cheaper than some secondary bottles people buy.
Yeah, that's fair.
Absolutely.
Crack that Russell's while we're talking here.
Yeah.
So I know you guys, you're talking about the cancer research and everything like that. When I looked at the information and was looking at the organization you're doing this with, there's 8 different charities that you've worked with?
There's 8 core charities. So it's pretty cool how the organization is structured. We're kind of like a foundation, but we're a charity in the sense that it's voted on by who our grants support with our fundraisers by the actual organization. So at the end of 2020, we put up a poll. It was like, what core charities do you want us to support for 2021? It was voted that there's 8 core charities. A lot to do. It's spread out too. I mean, we've got Breast Cancer Research Foundation. We've got Children's Tumor Foundation, St. Jude. We got a Boys and Girls Club of America. So it's really spread out through a lot of different deserving organizations through different categories.
Now with this one, with the Roses for Kids, it's sponsored by Wild Turkey. That's why we're doing the Russell's Reserve Rye here. But is there one pointed one? I might have missed it earlier with this, but was it one particular one that you're donating this round?
So yeah, we have a lot of different Wild Turkey products. We have the Diamond, we have the Russell's, I think that was the 2003. Of course, we have the Rare Breeds. We have a lot of different Wild Turkey product in the fundraiser.
Yeah.
So yeah, they stepped up big time. Is like, what can we donate? What bottles can we contribute? And I know as soon as COVID's over, we'll be throwing in, distillery tour visits as well into some of these fundraisers.
So, and with that being said, when all the funds that are raised for this particular event, are they going to one charity or does that split up?
It's split between the 5. Right now, we're at 92% public donation charity.
Okay.
Essentially, our goal is to get to 100%. We started at 80% 2 years ago. We've been cracking at that number because we have a group of monthly donors called Bourbon Hood members. So we're about 450 members strong that contribute to buying that Pappy at secondary, to doing all the audited 990s and all the legal stuff that the charity needs to do to operate. So we're at 92% that goes straight divvied up, that we're gonna divvy up between the 5 charities on this fundraiser. And like I said, we're on our way to getting dollar for dollar donation probably here in the next 6 months to be 100% public donation charity.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
How does one sign up? I mean, is that an exclusive club, the Bourbon Hood?
Yeah, you can go to bourbonhood.org. You get perks for joining the Hood. You get, a cool Glencairn and a koozie and some sweet merch. You also get donation entries into all of our 5 main fundraisers that we do. So if you're a $10 a month Bourbon Hood member, you don't have to worry about buying tickets. If you don't want to this fundraiser, you already have ticket entries. So it's kind of like an autopilot, kind of set it and forget it for a lot of people that want to donate monthly, but still have, some action on the sweepstakes that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You guys have any questions?
I think just overall, Brandon, the work that you and the rest of the Brotherhood and the donors are doing is just phenomenal. It's absolutely fantastic. And, I'm a part of a variety of different bourbon groups and stuff that are out there. And one of which is very similar is the Angel Share. I don't know if you're aware of it or not.
Familiar, yes.
Yeah. So, they do a lot of work and stuff. And recently they just put up, they're in coordinates with the gentleman who's bringing back the OKI brand, and gave the group kind of first dibs on picking the first barrel.
That's cool.
In honor of a gentleman who was good friends with a lot of the people who passed away from, I believe it was colon cancer. And so, there's a little bit of upcharge for each bottle that's sold, and, they're doing randomizers and everything else like that. But, all the 100% of the proceeds are going back towards, the colon cancer research and things of that nature. So it's really cool to see other groups out there that are taking something that is, a cherished hobby by many and using it to help.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Help contribute to the greater good.
Absolutely. And focusing on the Bourbon Charity a little bit, I mean, this is one of how many events this year you're planning?
This will be 5. We have 5 main fundraisers, and then we do bingo night every once in a while. We'll raise money for a certain organization. Sometimes we do pop-up fundraisers. Like last year, the Australian bushfires hit over there, and so we just like, hey, let's organize a fundraiser real quick. And I think we raised $35,000 for the koalas and the firefighters over there. So
Just
yeah,
yeah.
So, anywhere from probably 10 to 15 different events throughout the year.
That's a lot.
Wow.
In a post-COVID world, is the plan going to be to actually do in-person events like across the U.S.?
Yeah, that's right now we're completely volunteer driven. We don't have, a paid staff to help coordinate some of those in-person events. So we've kind of been fortunate with our growth as a charity, as an organization, just because of COVID. And we've all been, more digital and virtual from the get-go. But yeah, obviously we want to have some in-person events. I want to, meet a lot of our donor base and a lot of our ambassadors and people that really have supported us. So it definitely is. It's probably a 2022 thing. We've got a couple different distilleries that have already kind of rolled out the red carpet, say, if you want to do an event here, we're all about it. So it's definitely on the radar.
And what do you, just if I can ask, you say you got a full-time job, obviously, on top of raising all this money. I mean, you're in Arizona. What are you doing out in Arizona right now?
So I do real estate investing. I started kind of when the market crashed, and kind of built up a big flipping company and a mortgage company. And I kind of do that for a couple hours throughout the day, but the real focus is kind of shifted over to Bourbon Charity and kind of more how to give back and how to kind of see this charity through. I think we're on the cusp, like I mentioned earlier, of being 100% public donation charity, which is going to be huge, and raising over $1 million. So just setting it on the right path is great to see and watch it grow and watch, some of the cool stuff start to come to fruition, like our water projects that we have going on in Africa are starting to be built. We have a teen center that's going on right now that's being built for Boys and Girls Club. We contributed to a community kitchens be built for a food bank. So just starting to see some of that come to fruition is wonderful, and just sharing that with our donor base and really showing that, you think just throwing $10, $25 into a raffle, might not make a big difference, but it really, as a community, as all of us, joining in to do it, it's making a huge impact.
I mean, it sounds like it, because these are all the projects that you're talking about with across the globe. These are through the charity organizations you're working with.
Yeah,
right?
$4 million that we've raised. Yeah, I think 4 water projects with charity water that we funded. Like I said, Boys and Girls Club, a teen center, like Dare to Care. I think we've contributed over $60,000 to the community kitchen that there in Louisville. So just a lot of different stuff where it's really making an impact on a lot of different communities, whether it's international, local, nationwide. It's having a huge impact.
And with that being said, I know you kind of briefly described it. Can you tell everyone with this? I mean, I'll share the link on both the podcast page and then also the Bourbon and BS community page. If you're on Facebook, you can obviously join that. It's kind of an extension of this, but it's something that we want to share how they can actually donate. In a sense, they can do either the monthly thing, but even like with the focus on this, the roses for kids coming up, it starts. They can get in now, but it is the raffle starts on February 14th, Valentine's Day, correct?
Well, that's when ticket sales end on Valentine's Day. Then we draw the following Friday for the winner. And the cool thing is it's set up as a sweepstakes versus a raffle. It's kind of technicality, but essentially it's not gambling because there's free entry. Therefore, when you make a contribution, it is tax deductible, which is an extra bonus as well.
Okay, that's awesome. But yeah, you can send us the link so we know for sure.
Yeah.
And if you can turn me up a little bit, Nate.
Yeah, I do.
Thank you. And after this one, do you have the bingos? They pop up, the bingos and everything else. I mean, can you kind of give us an idea of I don't want to take away the focus on this one.
What the 2021 brings.
Yeah. What's coming up after this one? I mean, I think
so
after that you can obviously keep an eye on. You guys will be throwing a lot out there. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so after this, we have a bingo night going on. It'll probably be the end of February, and it'll support Charity Water. We're hoping to build another water project over there, probably in Ethiopia, and it's about $12,000 that needs to be raised to build that water project. So I think that's a realistic target we'll achieve later on in the month of February. And then after that, we have the first Saturday in May, the Bourbon Derby. Sponsored by Woodford Reserve.
Okay.
There will be a lot of ponies in that, a lot of Blantons. We'll have an OFC in there. We'll have some, I think, some different Yeti coolers and different.
Those are always nice.
Different stuff, swag in there from the charity. So we'll have a lot of cool stuff. And then after that is our Father's Day fundraiser. That's sponsored by Bardstown Bourbon Company. That's our big one for the year. So we'll have the whole Pappy lineup, the whole BTAC lineup. It'll be stacked.
It sounds stacked.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
It sounds stacked. What do you guys got? Anything else? I mean, we're sipping on the Russells here.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really think of a whole lot, to be honest with you. I mean, he's pretty much.
It's a lot of information.
Yeah. Just any question we might have had was already answered.
What's your bourbon of choice?
You know what? I am not like a bourbon snob at all. Like I like it all, and I like it, neat. I like it, on the rocks. I like an old fashioned. That's probably my go to. If you twist my arm, just give me an old fashioned with a nice rye, and I'll be a happy guy. So, I like it all. I don't know. What about you guys?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Dustin. Get in there.
I mean, I'm kind of like you, Brandon. It really kind of depends on my mood more than anything, and just kind of what sounds good. A lot of the listeners and everyone who knows me knows I love barrel strength and foolproof stuff, and just because I like to taste as close to possible as what the master distiller tasted from the barrel. But I mean, it's just hard to pick. There's so many great ones out there, and a lot of local ones that are really great. Middle West makes some really good stuff here, and
I don't know if you've had any of the Ohio ones much.
I haven't. No.
Yeah.
Middle West, Watershed, both local make some really great things, and I love anything from Wild Turkey or Jim Beam.
Sure.
Buffalo Trace for sure. Eagle Rare is probably obviously a solid go-to at any point in time or day whenever you can get it, but it's so smooth, it just doesn't matter.
But
I'm always open to try new stuff and broaden the horizon. I'm not any one particular brand over another or anything like that.
I like Willet products. Absolutely. Willet products, which we can't get in Ohio. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but you can't get them in Ohio.
I think they're coming to Ohio.
Currently, you can't get them in Ohio, but maybe they will at some point. But for the last ever, we can't get them here. But hopefully we can get them. like that. Four Roses products, I absolutely love. Like you said, Wild Turkey, absolutely love their products. I'm trying to think of others. I mean, yeah, local ones. Some of the ones that so we got hooked up with you a little bit through Aaron with Robro Marketing, right? So he's been a great contact. I love the fact that he suggested having you on because we've had Wheel Horse. We had Still Austin,
Chicken Cock,
and then also Barrel Craft.
Yep.
So he's been able to really hook us up with stuff that we can't get here. Like Still Austin is a Texas one, and we cannot get it here. So and again, stuff like you're doing, we've caught wind of, but it's great to have. I think with you having these connections, obviously in the industry, you've mentioned some of the big boys, right? But also working with someone like or working with Aaron from Robro, I think it's fantastic that it kind of hooks it all up together.
Yeah, we kind of knew from the get-go that in order to grow on this, we need people, on our side to really get the word out of what we're doing and how we're doing it, and how we have.
Well, you're breaking up right there.
Charity, how we have a roadmap to get there with.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have, if you could repeat that, you were breaking up on the feed there with your connection.
No, I just was saying we're just lucky to have such a great, support donor base that believe in us and believe in our kind of our roadmap and how we're going to get to 100% public donation charity through Bourbonhood. So it's just really now become quite the community organization that, the charities we support are voted on by the communities. How we operate is voted on by the community. So it's just really fun to watch it grow, to watch, just to see how much good we can do together. So I appreciate you having me on. It's been great to, share with your audience, what we're doing as well. So anything to increase the awareness of what we're doing is huge for us.
No, absolutely. And I will say that, as we know, it's funny because the bourbon community with everyone that's hunting and everything like that, you see people's bourbon collections. There's definitely some disposable income. And so, instead of going out and buying that secondary bottle, maybe it's you have a lot. I'm not going to tell anyone not to get more bottles, right? I mean, I get that. I mean, this is part of the community and everything like that. But I will say that it's, instead of buying that next $100, $400, $500 bottle, it'd be great to see them throw money at something like, Bourbon Charity with that one, and just, let that one go, guys. Let that one, unicorn for most people, but you have 8 bottles of it. You really don't need that 9th bottle, maybe. And you could probably throw it at like Bourbon Charity, and maybe you'll win one.
I was going to say, maybe you get a chance to win something even better.
Yeah.
But it's the 9th batch.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah. So you're part of the problem. I'll say that.
I tell you what, everyone that wins is always like, I never win anything. Like, that's the first response I get on the emails. Like, oh, I didn't win. I never win anything. So it does happen. People that don't win, it does happen. And like you said, it's kind of like, leave a bottle, or instead of buying a $50 bottle, buy a $40 bottle and donate $10. They're in $10 to the Roses for Kids fundraiser, which is really cool because you should see what some of the impact that the money's going to have. Like, we're working with Phoenix Children's Hospital, which is one of the beneficiaries to the fundraiser, and they are installing these really cool like table kiosk gaming systems for the lobby. So if you ever go into a children's hospital and you have to wait, like now at Phoenix Children's Hospital, because these units cost like $5,000, and we can get anywhere from 2 to 3 with the money we're raising for them. We're going to see the impact right there in the Phoenix Children's Hospital lobby of having these cool gaming systems in there for the kids and the parents that have to wait. So it's really cool to see the impact.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Do you post that on, you have a website, right? The Bourbon Charity website, right? We'll get all that information out there for everyone, but do you post any of this stuff, like pictures or links to these projects?
Yeah, and that's something we want to get better at, obviously more in a post-COVID world, and operating from a business standpoint where we can have more volunteers come in the charity, and we can do a little, it's been definitely more of a challenge, but yeah, we like to share the stories on our social media about the impact that we're having with the funds that are being raised. So yeah, definitely, if you're not, follow us on social at Bourbon Charity on Insta or Facebook.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome. What else do we need to know about Bourbon Charity? Where are we headed with this, long term? Or are you just, obviously I love how you said that you you work on your career as after you mentioned all these things that you started. Like,
Yeah.
I do that a few hours a day, and then I focus on this.
Yeah, I think what this has taught me, and I'm a serial entrepreneur, that nonprofits, especially with what's going on right now, need a lot of help. These children's hospitals, these boys and girls clubs. I mean, COVID has hit their business model hard. They haven't been able to have this in-person stuff, and they haven't really been able to, adapt really to the online fundraising model. So, I think for me personally, looking at different ways to help these organizations a little bit more outside of Bourbon Charity, which is great. Bourbon has it's a great niche to be able to help. But I think overall, a lot of these charities, can start to look at how they can go online with some of their fundraising, how kind of take a little bit out of our playbook of what we've been doing to gain that social media audience to really drive the fundraisers more to an online type of structure. So I think that's more the future, and for the charity, it's just gonna,
Hang on, you froze up.
I think that's the goal. The 475, 500 people that they're gonna vote to take this charity whichever direction they want to take it, and I'm just gonna be along for the ride like everyone else. So get the popcorn and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and what I like about too with what you're saying, with this, now everyone likes to go to charity events, like you're saying that's part of the fun, to do something where everyone gets together and there's you donate, and like your ticket goes to the charity, but then it also goes to the bar, goes to the food, goes to the entertainment and all that stuff. That's fun, and I'm not going to take away from that. But this is kind of cool because what you're doing is a little bit purer. It's not as exciting and glitzy and glamorous and all that stuff. You're just basically like, yeah, click this and here's my credit card information for this. But it just shows that it's when you're aiming to be this 100%, this is an easier way to do that with some of these things. You don't need to get the venue. You don't need to get any of the money.
A lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. You don't like, okay, you got $100 ticket or whatever. If you do one of those types of things, $200 ticket, but that gets you food. It gets you a couple drink tickets. It gets you like this, this. That all takes away from that. So doing it the way you're doing it, it's literally like, yeah, I might have to like pay a couple fees to host this on, on a web server or whatever it might be. But for the most part, you're just going straight to the source. And I love that about this. I think it's so cool. And again, it's not maybe as fun. Do you guys do anything like a Zoom when you're raffling, or is it just all pure email?
No, we do an Instagram live that will.
Yes.
So yeah, like you said, there's not that waste that you get in an event, and we look at it from like a perspective when we're talking to distilleries saying, hey, do you want to sponsor us for this fundraiser? And like, why don't we just raise money directly for, Fisher House Foundation or the food bank or whatnot? I'm like, our audience is your target market. There's no more efficient marketing than going through us as the channel to get to this demographic that we're trying to raise money from. Like, you can go work with, the food bank, but how many people on their donor base are, bourbon people versus going through us, in which, if it's 100% pass through, it's just a win-win all the way around.
Absolutely. And there's a good question here based on what you just said. Ray Cheshire, who's a regular that follows us here, says, has Brandon ever been challenged about using alcohol to fund children's charities? I think it's a valid question, because there are people out there that, kind of same thing with the cigar world, right? It's when you're doing this stuff, it's kind of this, kind of borderline sin tax, type of industries where, you don't know if people are going to look at this. And I don't know if I think he's asking more, do the children's charities object to where this money is coming from in a sense?
Right.
I think with alcohol, it's probably not as much pushback maybe as like say tobacco, but I mean, that's a great question, Ray.
Yeah, great. Excellent question, Ray. And fortunately for us, we don't get any pushback from the charities, St. Jude, Phoenix Children's. They're actually working with us on our side because, like I mentioned earlier, they really need these donations right now. And we've kind of been working with a lot of the organizations, writing checks to them, so they know that we're doing a good job and that we're sincere in what we're doing, and we're doing it in a very tasteful manner too, right, where it's not. But again, we had I think it was Jim Beam that was like, hey, we would like to do. They were looking at before Wild Turkey jumped on board. They were looking at this, but they were like, "Hey, we just don't do children's charities." So like, that's fine. We've got other stuff where we're just supporting the military or cancer research, but this is the one time of year that we're focused on the kids is Valentine's Day, and so like I said, luckily for us, we do it tastefully, and we don't get any pushback from the actual charities.
So you got pushback from a distillery.
Correct.
And then another one jumped on board.
That's I was not expecting that. And not to talk bad about that distillery by any means. Obviously,
No.
everyone's got their different, foundations they want to work with.
Exactly.
Was there a reason? I got to ask. Was there a reason? And I don't want to throw you on the bus if you don't feel comfortable, answering that. But was there a reason for them to say, "No, we don't want to"?
No, it's just corporate policy, and I mean, they're corporates. Just like we don't donate to children's-based charities with alcohol, and I totally get it. Like, hey, it's your business.
I could see that being a slippery slope. Possibly, right? Because it's like one of those things. You
have to be 21 to buy it anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's something where it's like they're building hopefully future customers or something like that. Because over the last several decades, obviously, I think that's kind of the image that everyone's had to get away from, is that you don't want to market to kids. Right. So I assume that's as you're talking, that's what I'm thinking, is that you got some of these big boys especially are like, yeah, we're gonna steer clear of that because now we're gonna have all these other organizations coming after us saying, oh yeah, you're just donating and trying to like. When this kid, hits 21, they're going to definitely be a beam drinker or something like that. You don't want that image. I get it. All right. So I thought that through. I talked it out. I'm sorry. At first I was like, all right, you're going to say no to the kids? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, no, I get it. All right. I'm a little slow.
It's all good. It's all good.
This was a really good time to start a charity around bourbon, since we are in a bourbon boom in the US. Like, that's a great way to take advantage of it. Hey, bourbon's the hottest thing out there right now. Let's start a charity.
Marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, same thing with the PS5. It's hot right now. We're like, let's throw it in there. We're looking at different creative ways. Like, I throw everything at the board and see if it sticks. We talked about like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a part of like add on like Kobe jerseys and memorabilia, sports memorabilia. Like, we've kind of looked at different things. Like, how do we stay cool? How do we stay relevant? How do we keep it fresh? How do we give like you all that are donating like something to be excited about, and so we're always looking at different ways. So if you guys ever have any ideas of what we can do and how we can do it, definitely all ears.
No, that's fantastic. I'm looking at your website right now. It's a nice little website here. You obviously got the home, you got about, you got way to sponsor and donate. It has it has this event that I had a link to, but I'm looking at even your merch. You got 27 products on your merch page. And it says right at the top, 100% proceeds help Bourbon Charity. So we just explained how much of that's actually going through, right? So that's fantastic. Right. You got these awesome hats on there. You got a Glencairn. You got you guys got cool old fashioned tee, a neat tee. You got long sleeves. You got that Norland tumbler, which is awesome. I mean, you guys are out there. You guys are.
We try to kill it with our merch game. We look at it as great advertising for our organization, and our supporters are, they love drinking for a change. So we got to make sure they have a lot of different Glencairns, and like I said, a lot of different neat hats and different gear to stay fresh.
You put pants, underwear, and socks and shoes on here. You got a whole outfit.
You know what? We've been looking for some neat PJs. So we're going to expand post COVID on our neat line. That's really taken off with some stuff. So we'll definitely have some cool stuff coming up.
You do a onesie with feet. You're solid. That's staying in. That's a staying in, onesie. It's a going out onesie, as long as the bottoms are real secure, Yeah. That'd be pretty awesome.
Away from kid sizes.
Yeah. Maybe a baby bib. Unless you got anything else, I think this is awesome. I really do. We appreciate your time. I don't want to keep you. I know you said you got the wife and kids and everything like that. So we don't want to keep you. We'd love to have you on anytime. And, in the future, you got something coming up. I do. If you want, again, on the Bourbon and BS community page, if you want to join that, I'll definitely approve you on there. And anything that you or the organization want to share on that. It's not the biggest community page, about 1,400 members. But I mean, it's a great opportunity to put that out there, share it. and then anyone can hit those links and donate or get a part of the raffles. I think it'd be fantastic.
That'd be wonderful. That you guys, thanks so much for that to support. I'll definitely hit you guys up on that Facebook page and look forward to continuing to work with you guys and kind of, getting you guys on the journey here and kind of like checking in every once in a while to see where we're at and what we got going on. Sounds great.
Yeah. And I tell you what we're going to do also is we're going to take some of our sponsorship dollars and we're going to go ahead and do a buy for this. What do you guys think? Like, what are the options? $10 or what else?
Yeah, start 10, go all the way up. I think north of $100. So whatever feel comfortable with is great.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We'll go ahead and we'll do 40?
I was thinking kind of cut it in the middle. 50?
Yeah, we'll do a Bourbon and BS podcast $50 donation. Sonny's walking up with cash.
Sonny just threw up a $50 bill. That's
so it'll be $100. So Sonny just matched it with $50. Oh. So Sonny was last week, actually, our guest, and he's in the audience tonight. So there you go, $50, and then we'll match that $50. And anyone else, please feel free to share. Also, it doesn't give me that.
It's gonna grow legs and walk away.
And we don't take credit card here, sir.
And now
we got another 20 from the other audience member. We got Daniel out there, so.
Already.
Sean's looking at us in the audience.
$70
looking at the audience. He's like, I don't have cash on me, man.
That's awesome.
Come on. But yeah, so there you go. We're gonna do 120 here. So that's awesome, guys. And anyone else, we'll get it all out there. You have until February 14th to partake in this particular event. And obviously, like you said, you have multiple ones coming up this year. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. This is amazing, man.
Yeah. Right on. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks so much for the generosity. It's so humbling and so appreciated. And you guys are awesome.
Awesome.
Appreciate it, Brandon.
Thank you very much, Brandon.
Cheers, brother. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
All right. We'll see. Talk to you later. Wow.
That's one way to get participation from the audience.
Yeah.
It's like we have a hard enough time sometimes getting questions from the audience, and we just had.
I should just ask for money.
Exactly.
Don't have any questions or spare cash. That's fantastic. Have you Bourbon Charity? So there you go. Sonny says he's heard of him. So Ian's out there. He says I'll match that. So I don't know what he's matching exactly, but yeah, Ian, go ahead and share what you're doing. I mean, don't be humble about it. If you guys do get a part of this, throw it on the community page and say, hey, I bought this many. And it's not a show-off game. $10. I mean, again, it's just every little bit, or just say that you participate. You don't have to show your dollars. So he said, so I can give 50 on some website. Yeah, we'll post everything for you where you can go to. It's real easy. Click on it, and then they'll probably do, whatever, credit card or debit card for that. So that's fantastic. Ian says, what do you have so far? We got
120.
Yeah, 120. So between the podcast, Sonny and Daniel, but again, this is not a measuring contest. It's just it goes to a good cause.
It's a bunch of guys. Of course, it's a measuring contest.
All right. Well, there's women out there. I love that.
Yeah, and, Todd Bose that's out there. They do a cigar charity as well.
Yeah, called the Cigar Band. They do a lot of charity stuff there.
Yep, I've known Todd for quite a few years, and with doing that charity and all the events, and I've seen some of the stuff that they do, and it's pretty cool.
No,
Ian just put up, I'll match that 120.
There you go.
Oh shoot!
There you go.
Wow,
that's amazing.
So
wow.
Yeah.
Ian, thank you.
Yeah, Ian, that's
brother.
awesome. Anyone else out there?
You can still see Brain hanging out there.
He was just giving like the thumbs up.
Yeah, he gave a thumbs up. So
yeah,
that'd be what, 240 then? Yeah.
So there you go. That helps out. Yeah,
My
that's
calculations
fantastic.
are correct.
Yeah.
All right, so
let's hope that anyone, like if the podcast or whatever wins something, it's a bottle, so that way we can have it on the podcast, because it's not like the podcast can really share or use a PS5.
Oh, I mean, I got a 100-inch screen out here.
Okay. Okay.
We'll have game night.
Yeah,
there you go.
Do board games. That's awesome. All right, so while we're in part one here, still we're about 40 minutes here, so we got about 20 or so to go over the review here. So we're smoking the Leaf by Oscar, thanks to Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. And we're also drinking Russell's Reserve Straight Rye, the 6-year, which is I say basic bottle, but that sounds bad, but it's the Russell's Reserve Straight Rye 6-year whiskey there. So anyone want to tell me about the Russell's Reserve Rye?
So as it says on it, 6-year rye.
Yeah.
Obviously, with Russell's being part of Wild Turkey, you got Wild Turkey rye, you got the 101 rye, you got the rare breed rye that we had this past Thanksgiving on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be the entry level rye under the Russell's brand. I think this is what, $35 in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
OHLQ. Yeah. So it's $34.99.
Yeah.
For 750 milliliter.
Yeah. 6-year rye, and then they also have the single barrel rye, which it doesn't say 6-year on it, but it happens to also be 6-year. And just like with the Russell's bourbon, the regular bourbon and rye, if you flip the colors, then you have the single barrel colors.
Yeah.
So with this, it's got a white label
lettering.
with green lettering. The single barrel is going to be green label, white lettering. So they inverse. Yeah. Yep. Compared to that bottle that's up there. Yeah.
There's the bourbon right there.
Yep.
The 10-year. Yeah. And I think the Russells, this 6-year rye was their first actual rye that they released, wasn't it?
Before the Wild Turkey Rise? Or
yeah, I believe so.
It could have been.
It was definitely
I'd have to
before
look
the 101 rye, I believe.
Yeah. Definitely before the rare breed rye.
Oh, yeah.
Which-
that was the newest one.
Yeah. Which was an absolutely fantastic bottle.
Yeah. Well, we all unanimously love ryes here at the table.
Well, and after that one experience a couple years ago, it's got to be under a certain temperature. Typically,
pretty sure we're well below that.
We are well below that threshold for us to be able to feature ryes on the podcast.
Yeah, one of the reasons I got the rye tonight for this is, we're prepping for the cold weekend here coming up in Columbus, Ohio, in the Midwest. We got a little bummed about that actually, with the fact that we were going to do the Super Bowl in the garage like we did 2 weeks ago. But it's going to be high of 10 last I saw, and a low of -2
Sunday night.
That's probably without wind chills.
Well, I mean, we're in the garage. There's not a whole lot of gusts in here, but
True.
Oh no, it's gone up according to this. Yeah.
What's it up to?
The overnight low Sunday night's 10. So
Heat
I guess
wave.
there's a warm front coming through.
I feel like we're in Tampa. What do you guys think of this bottle?
I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It drinks very well. I mean, we're sitting at 90 proof. It's got a little bit of a nice finish on it, like normal rye would, a little bit of that burn and spice. But I don't think it's anything overpowering at all.
No.
It's just such an easy, smooth drinker for, a $35 bottle. And let's be honest, I don't think you can go wrong at all with Russell's whatsoever.
No, I think most Wild Turkey products, I mean, like I said, I enjoy them a lot. The Russell's line, I really have not had a bottle I haven't enjoyed.
Yeah.
Again, for, we talk about price point, and we were talking about it earlier as far as the, with, the charity stuff. I mean, next time you're going to the store or whatever, you're looking around and maybe buy the $35 bottle, and put another 10 or 15 towards a like Bourbon Charity or something like that. Just that time. Doesn't have to be every time, you know what I mean? But obviously, and everyone's got their own disposable income, what they want to do with it, which I think is fantastic. But it's something that I feel as though this one, the Russell's, it's, and I misspelled it. I'm going to take that off there. It's not RYW, it's RYE. Take that down. I was
little typo.
Yeah, that's a pretty big typo.
That's all right. Mistakes happen.
Yeah. What do you think, Nate?
Oh, I love the texture of it. It's got a nice, thick, oily texture to it. The finish kind of minty, in my opinion.
Minty, okay.
Minty.
Okay.
But then right up front, like if you actually let it sit on your palate, it's got this nice, thick caramel flavor to it. Which typically I get that more from a bourbon than I do from a rye.
Yeah.
But no, it's got a good amount of sweetness right up front. So if you're more of a bourbon guy than a rye guy, I think this would be a good one to go to, because you're still going to get a little bit of that sweetness to it, but then you're going to get different other tasting notes because it is a rye and it doesn't have all that corn to it.
Yeah. Not quite as spicy as some. I see what you're saying about the mint. You know what I mean? It's not going to be that typical, like a cinnamon or
almost like a eucalyptus type flavor to it.
Yeah, if you're stuffed up,
Yeah. little menthol on the
You
palate.
run out of halls, and you want to just go ahead and you're like, what do I have in the house? It's gonna clear me up. It's not. Sunny Ass is a typical for rye. I don't think the eucalyptus. So this is a little different than some of the ryes that we've talked about on the podcast before, but it does have that. I think, and maybe it's just because I know it's a wild turkey product, it has that little bit of spice to it.
Yeah.
And now that you said eucalyptus, now that you said mint, that's all I can taste.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you run out of, Listerine or something, again, there's a lot of uses for whiskey, I think.
I'll just have to make sure Kathy doesn't grab the wrong bottle when she goes for a mouth rinse.
No, she can. Well, yeah. I mean, this is the nice thing about this. Instead of Listerine, you just swallow it afterwards.
Right.
Yeah, no waste.
It's a solid nightcap.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I think, again, I recommend this one for sure. Check this one out, the Russell Reserve. We'll get into the ratings here shortly. Go ahead.
So I just looked up something. So probably one of the reasons why this has a little bit of sweetness is the mash bill.
What's the mash bill?
51% rye.
There it is.
So just like with bourbon, in order for it to be a rye, it's got to be at least 51% rye.
Mm-hmm.
And Woodford, theirs is only 53, so it's kind of the same thing. It's just enough to actually be classified as what they're going for.
Yeah.
So it's 51% rye, 12% malted barley, 37% corn.
So that's where
So that's where it's going to have some of that sweetness. So that's why
hardcore, like 95% rye, like some of the ones we've had, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of straight ryes you'll see, either 95 and then the other 5 is malted barley or even 100% rye. Which there aren't too many of those because they need that malted barley in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 37% corn, just like with the Woodford, that's what's going to make this bottle be that good transition for someone who's not necessarily well versed in ryes and wants to start experimenting with ryes. Like this would be a good one to go with, not only because of the price point, but because the mash bill still has a lot of corn in it. You're still going to get some of that sweetness if you're a bourbon drinker.
I'm getting a little bit of vanilla from it too, but I like I'm getting some of the spice, and paired with the Sumatra, it's really bringing a lot more of that out, the spice and that pepperiness.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to throw this up there. So while we're coming up with uses for whiskey, and we're not giving any medical advice here by any means, and Ray is not a doctor. I know him personally. He's not a doctor, but he's currently using whiskey as a painkiller following his root canal. If that's your only painkiller, okay. Do not combine medicines.
Can you get a prescription for Russell's or anything like that?
Yeah, it's called a driver's license.
No, can I get a doctor to write prescription? Be on my insurance, pay $10 copay for the bottle?
Doubtful.
Copays for liquor. Now there you're at. Now you're thinking. All right, let's.
I like where you're headed here. Make some phone calls.
Everyone else is like, fucking alcoholics. Jesus.
Start that charity.
No, that's an insurance company that we're going to start. We're going to start an insurance company. No, we're not. So what about the cigar, Steve?
I was waiting for you to be done.
I am.
No, I like it. Let's see here. So I'll tell you what I know, and I was actually looking up a little bit more about Sumatra because it's one of those things. You smoke cigars, and let's see if I did a typo on this one here. Boom. Looks good.
That one looks good.
Looks good. So this is Leaf by Oscar. Oscar is the manufacturer. This is a great guy down in Honduras. He's based out of there. I met him once. He came to the shop in Columbus, and super nice guy. He's got some great products. This is one that is the reason it's called Leaf is we did a Leaf a while back.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was either the Connecticut or the Maduro.
Both. We did the Connecticut once before, and then I think I brought on the Maduro, and we did the Akintosh and 3-wood.
Okay. So we did it with a Scotch.
Yep.
So the Leaf by Oscar, to give you a brief little background, Leaf is from Leaf and Bean, which they're based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and a gentleman, Jim Robinson, Island Jim, is the owner of that shop, and this is a project that he worked with Oscar, and so this is one of. They have several different ones. There's a Leaf by Esteban, and then there's Leaf by Oscar. I think there's another one. This one really has just taken a hold in the industry, and it just blew up. So this was a house blend that he did. And then people like John Demharder, who used to work as a broker in
Great
the industry.
guy.
Fantastic guy. Someone I met as I got in the industry about 8 years ago or something like that. And just a fantastic guy, one of the great classic salespeople. He is that person that always shows up on a regular basis, hits the pavement, fills the doorways. Fantastic. And he brought this in as something because he's from the Pittsburgh area. And so Island Jim worked on this one. And so there's a leaf by Oscar, and I might miss one, but it's the Maduro, Connecticut, like we talked about, those two. Then you have the Sumatra and you have the Corojo. I don't know if he has anything else. And then Jim has worked with him on other ones like the Island Jim cigar itself.
Those are the only 4 that I know of. I've had all 4, and I'm a huge fan.
Well, and then they also have a couple specialty sizes that they do of the leaf, like the Big Johnson and the Woody.
Big Johnny.
Sorry.
Come on.
Close enough. Big Johnny and the Woody. And
explain those.
So the Big Johnny is basically the leaf. It's a 60 ring gauge.
Same blend as the Maduro.
Yeah, it's a 60 ring gauge, but it's what is it, 8-inch?
Something like that.
And then
I think it's 66, but
and then the Woody is, gosh, that thing's like 2 feet long.
It's obnoxious.
Yeah.
It's obnoxious.
Yeah.
It's like $40.
The cigars.
It
like
comes in a coffin.
Long. Yeah.
And it literally like that.
Yeah. I'll look it up.
It's ridiculous. So this one has an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper, and Sumatra, that's what I was looking at, because it's one of those things like you talk about it, and I sound like an idiot being the cigar guy here. But it is something that is coming from the Ecuadorian region, and it's a certain type of leaf that they're using on this. And it's something that they pair with on this one. You have a Honduran Honduran binder and Honduran filler. And this is something that I like Sumatra wrappers. I don't know. What do you guys think about Sumatra wrappers?
I like them.
Yeah. I think you get like this like kind of sweetness from them typically. You get a little bit like it's kind of a mild, balanced. Typically, when you have a Sumatra wrapper on a cigar, it helps balance that out, in my opinion. This is, I'd say, medium bodied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Sumatra wrapper to me has got a very nice velvety texture to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
if you rub your finger along the cigar, like you feel that soft velvet texture to it. And to correct myself, the Woody by Oscar, it's 21 inches, but it's 100 ring gauge.
Yeah.
So 100 ring gauge. So it's more than 1.5 inches in diameter, and then it's 21 inches long. That's an all day cigar.
Afternoon.
It's a big stick.
Going back on that, I correct myself here. I'm sorry, I sound like an idiot here. But the island of Sumatra is where it is, right? So this is where this seed comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ecuador, much like the Connecticut seed, Ecuadorian Connecticut, that's where this is. It's grown in multiple places, but Ecuador is a great place to grow it, apparently. So I apologize, but this is being used by a lot of different companies, obviously.
So this is all Honduran inside, and then the
Honduran filler and binder. Yep.
Yeah.
And then you have that Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper on there.
Okay.
It's interesting. Like anytime I hear about Ecuadorian tobacco, it's always a wrapper. Like it's either Ecuadorian Sumatra or Ecuadorian Connecticut. But I never really hear of all Ecuadorian cigars.
No, it's simply wrapper leaf, I think, a lot of times, but Ecuadorian Habano.
So, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, I mean, but again, that typically that Habano is going to be used as a wrapper. So I'd be curious as to what they're using the tobacco that's not wrapper quality, what they're using that for.
I don't know.
Because again, I don't see too many cigars that have Ecuadorian tobacco in the filler or binder. It's typically the wrapper leaf.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I'm curious if anyone knows that out there that's listening.
And being in the industry and in the company I used to work for, knowing the yields of what percentage of tobacco leaves are good enough for wrapper, which most of it's not. I'd be very curious as to what they do with the rest of the tobacco.
A lot of excess tobacco.
Yeah. If you got the type of curing barns that they use now, only about 30% of tobacco leaves are quality enough to use as a wrapper.
Yeah, that'd be actually, it's very interesting. Next time we have a cigar company rep on here, that'd be something to ask them. Try to feature one with an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper or Ecuadorian Habano, whatever it is. But that'd be a great question, and we'll prep them on that to try to get more feedback from an actual cigar company on that, because I think that's a good point.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think the flavor profile on this is very, very well balanced. You know, like you said, Steve, that I do get a little bit of sweetness, but I do get some of that peppery spice from it. It's not overpowering by any means, kind of fitting into that medium body.
I get more of the spice on the retrohale. I know you don't retrohale,
Right?
but like I don't get a whole lot of it on the palate. I do get it on the retrohale more.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, like I mentioned earlier, I think combining it with the Russells, it pulls a lot more of that spice out of the rye. At least for me, between the two, really kind of will warm you up. But just like the rye, it coats the palate too. It kind of sits on the back of the tongue.
It's got a nice thick smoke to it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But it's it's real smooth and velvety too at the same time. It's just, I don't know. I've always been a big fan of the Leaf line.
Yeah.
The Maduro is probably my favorite over all of them. But it's been a long time since I've had the Sumatra or the Corojo.
Which, if you've never had Leaf by Oscar before, at the Tinder Box, there's actually a 4-pack sampler that has one Toro of all 4 blends.
Oh, perfect.
So you got the Connecticut, Maduro, Corojo, and Sumatra in a 4-pack.
And one of the things we didn't mention, I don't think, is that you got the Leaf out there, right? So this is one of the things, and when it first came out, it seemed like a little bit of a novelty. So this is something that, and when we first brought it on, when they were trying to get this out there, they had a great way of getting it out there to different accounts. Is instead of saying Leaf by Oscar, you would be able to, if you bought, I think it was 20 bundles, you'd be able to put the shop's name on it.
Mm-hmm.
So like Tinder Box, it had Tinder Box, you know, Leaf, or Leaf Tinder Box, whatever it was underneath there. And I think you guys had it at Burning Leaf, or eventually.
Eventually we did, but yeah.
So I mean, they had this marketing scheme where you could get your name on it. And it looks very, very hideous at first.
Yes.
Again, I mean, I don't think, let me pull up the full screen so I can see if you can see it. So Nate's holding the leaf. They actually wrap it in a leaf. And then, so it's, again, you probably can't see it, but it's very, very ugly. And we've had people, just like we joke about a little bit. I mean, unfortunately, you see some people that will like light a cigar that has a cedar wrap on it, and they light it with the cedar. We have had people, when these first came out, people were like looking at it like, that looks bad.
And I've seen people smoke it with the leaf on because they didn't know.
Right.
So that's why, like, as a salesperson, eventually, like, you have to remind people, like, make sure you take that off before you smoke it. I've known people that burnt holes in their shirts because they didn't know, because it just kept flaking off because they didn't know. Yeah.
So I mean, you take the leaf off, and there's a beautiful cigar underneath, and that's just part of the design. They say, I've heard it, you know, it's a way of aging it as well as aging it in a tobacco leaf. You know, it's kind of a cool concept.
Because they moisten the tobacco leaf a little bit before they wrap it on. So that way it gives the cigar a little bit of humidity.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, on the bands, and then on the bands for all 4 blends, the band will actually have what the wrapper is.
Yeah.
So, like, if someone handed you this cigar and it didn't have the leaf on it, like, you could actually look at the band and it'll tell you what it is. And then the band's not regular paper. I believe it's agave paper.
Yeah.
And I've actually known people that have actually smoked through it because the band will burn. Well, it'll burn as well. It doesn't necessarily taste the greatest, but it tastes better than, like, the regular paper bands.
No, it doesn't taste better is smoking it without the band.
Well, that's true.
I mean, it's not like a perk.
But yeah, you can set the band on fire and it just.
No, don't do that. Not in here. Come on. So it's very cool. They also, I will say, and this is not from me, but I know people that have used the outside wrappers as blunt wrappers. So
yeah,
there is multi-purpose here.
Yeah.
So anyone interested that you are a cigar dabbler and also a marijuana dabbler, you got a double purchase.
2 for 1 deal.
Take it off very carefully so that you can, like Nate has. I've never rolled a joint, so I don't know. I mean, or blunt. I don't know the right terminology here. Sonny can show us. He raised his hand.
But yeah, so, I mean, the leaf that they're using is not. It's not big enough to be used as a wrapper leaf unless you were smoking a really small cigar. But people that have never seen, like, the leaves that they actually roll for cigars, like the vein going right down the middle, they take that out and then you have 2 halves.
Right.
And those are the ones that they'll trim to give it the shape, and that's what they actually roll on the wrapper, but they're not using tobacco leaves that are high enough quality to use in their cigars.
I think it's great use for this, you know.
But there's no waste because they're using it for something. A lot of those companies, if they have leaves that aren't good enough to go in a cigar product, a lot of times they may sell it to a cigarette company,
right,
or something like that,
right,
or someone who makes machine-made, short fill, lower quality cigars.
Cesar out there, appreciate you listening. He says you can wrap a tamale too. I don't think that tastes very good either, but everyone's into. Yeah, Cesar, I would love to if you could share it on the community page when you use one of these wrapper leaves on a tamale and give us a feedback on that. I'd love to hear it.
Recipes
and watch you eat it.
There it is.
Live.
No, he was asking also. He was asking if how to donate if they take Zelle or Apple Pay. So I think they were trying to find that.
Yeah, Ian was giving them the answer. Like, just go to the website and you can do it on the website, the donation button or whatever. All
right, so now's the time we're going to do the rating end of part 1 here. So the rating, so we're going to do out of 10. These guys are familiar. If you're listening for the first time, out of 10, 10 being the best, we're going to rate the whiskey, the cigar, and the pairing. And we're going to start with Dustin.
So going with the whiskey, the Russell 6-year rye, like we talked about, it's a really smooth, easy drinker, low rye content. So comes with a nice bit of sweetness, but you still get a nice balance of that rye spice. I'd give it a solid 8, great value at $35. You cannot go wrong.
Right.
It's a phenomenal daily drinker for you rye lovers out there. Even for old fashions, if you wanted to go that route, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, Manhattans. I think
it'll stand up in one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people, as far as budget ryes go, you have your Old Foresters and the regular Wild Turkey 101 and Wild Turkey rye. I think for that $10 more, get your Russells. Especially if you're hunting for, a $40 or $50 bottle, like we mentioned earlier, take the difference, throw it towards a charity, and you still walk away with a very, very solid bottle.
Oh, how about the cigar?
Cigar,
and this is about, I think it's about $10.
$10. So it's very, very great smoke. Like we mentioned, very velvety on the wrapper, very smooth, thick smoke, a little sweetness from it, but nice bit of pepper. I can't retrohale, but I do get it on the back of my palate. I would give it a solid 8 as well. I do thoroughly enjoy all of the Leaf by Oscar line. It's been a while since I've had them, so it's a great change up. Overall together, keep it going. Solid 8 for the pairing.
8's across the board.
8's across the board. 888.
Do you think, even though you can't retrohale, that
just rubbing that in, or
drinking this Russell's allows you to get more of that spice? Because I don't get, like I said earlier, I don't get a whole lot of spice on the palate, but I do on the retrohale. Do you think this helped you get some of that spice?
I think it does. So just taking a sip after drawing on the cigar, I get a little bit more of that spice right up front. But then as it sits, I get a little bit of sweetness. You get more of that sweetness because of the lower rye content in it. So it's a really unique and nice balance between the two.
All right, Nate, how about you?
For me, on the cigar,
whiskey.
Oh, okay. On the rye first. On the rye, I'm actually a 9.
Okay.
I really enjoy this bottle. It's a great bang for buck. Very smooth. Just Dustin called it a daily drinker. If you're a rye guy, yeah, it's definitely something you could drink. Even during the summer, even when it's hot. This is still not overpowering like a 95% rye. It's got enough sweetness and it's only 90, 91 proof. So it's not going to be too harsh even in the summertime. So I'm a 9 on the whiskey. On the cigar, I'm a 7. It's solid. It's a good smoke. I actually had a little bit of a tunneling issue through the middle of mine.
Okay.
And so it wasn't burning very well. But that only lasted for about an inch in the middle of the cigar. And after that, it burned just fine. It's not a complex smoke. It's basically the same flavor profile from start to finish. It doesn't change flavors on the palate.
Right.
And then for the pairing, be about 8.5 on the pairing. I think this particular bottle enhances the cigar and makes it a little bit more enjoyable, just because you get more of that spice on the palate. So if you're someone who likes spicier cigars, this will bring out more of that spice, because typically with an Ecuadorian cigar, I don't get a whole lot of spice, or Ecuadorian tobacco. I typically don't.
Okay.
So I think this rye elevates the cigar.
I would agree with that. I think with the whiskey, yeah, for the price point, $35 right here in Ohio. It is unique. I like this. I like what they did with it, with the lower mash rye content, if you will, mash bill. I agree with you guys. It's a good everyday bottle. If you're, you don't want to like dip into some of the real special stuff, you want a kind of a staple in your bar. This is one to have if you want to do that. I didn't even think about it. You guys brought up a great point that this is a wonderful one for cocktails.
Yeah.
Not to some people will look at that as like, oh, it's not good on its own. No, I think it's great neat.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be good with the rocks, a couple rocks in there. I think it'd be good in a Manhattan. I think it'd be good in an old fashioned. I think it'd be good in a lot of cocktails. A lot of these, yeah, I think a lot of these the bartenders or mixologists, whatever you want to call yourself, I think it's fantastic. I think that you guys will you could do a lot of good things with this. So I'd give it. I'm there with the 8. I'm there with the 8 on it. It's a good bottle. When I look for a rye, my particular, I guess, go-tos are a little bit more spice, a little higher rye content. So when I'm looking at this, it's very, very good. 8's a very good rating, I think, but it's not gonna be, if I'm looking at a bar and I'm looking for a rye that night, may not be my first choice, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's very good and it's unique, but I'd say it's not going to be my favorite rye because it's not your traditional rye, if that makes sense. The cigar, I like the Leaf by Oscar line. I do. Sumatra is not my favorite. I'd give this cigar, for what they are doing with it, I would also like 8.5, somewhere in that range, kind of like with you guys there. I think this is a great cigar. I did not have any construction issues. This thing's burning perfectly. And it is that everything you guys said, velvety wrapper. It's a nice soft wrapper. The draws is perfect. Flavor profile for me is not my go-to, but I think it's very good. So if you like your traditional Sumatra with Honduran tobacco, I think you're going to really enjoy this cigar. This is something that I am shocked from the time that this came onto the market, when they were just starting to get out there. Last I had heard, they had something like 400 plus accounts nationwide. I don't know if it's international or not, but for a house brand, I think it's something that is going to be something that was originally a house brand. It has really taken a hold of the market just in general as a line. So pairing, I think the pairing is very good. I'd give it a 7.5, because I'm getting a little bit of dryness.
I could see
the flavor profiles go really, really well together. And maybe it's just me tonight, and with the smoke in the garage, with the heaters going, my hands are cold, a little dry outside. Maybe that's the dryness, but I'm getting a little bit of a dry finish with it. So that's where it's not going to be a super high rating, but the flavors go really well together.
Yeah.
It's just going back and forth between those. I'm going to be reaching for my water a little bit more, because I'm kind of drying out a little bit on my tongue, and I'm, in my throat and everything else. So, but again, good pairing. I mean, I'd recommend both of these things. If you haven't had the whiskey or the cigar, I'd definitely recommend grabbing these and trying them out. And trying them out together too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. With that being said, for part 1, I want to throw them up here on the screen. I want to thank patreon.com /Bourbon BS podcast. You guys are fantastic. Anyone participating in those, we appreciate the support. Like I said, we had someone bump up from the $5 to $10. We're going to be doing shirts, and I'm going to put it out there. I mentioned it, I think, last week or the week before. I'm going to put out a vote on the color, and then we'll try to get these shirts in hopefully by the end of February, if not the beginning of March. That being said, I might be leaning towards the green, the Patty's Day, in my opinion, shirt, the green with black. And I see a thumbs up in the crowd, and we had a couple other people that are interested in that. The other options are going to be blue or that black with gray, which is like the inverse. Do you have the one on there, Nate?
Yeah.
Taking it off there. That's the original. We're not going to do that one again. I'm going to do one for order one for Ian, because he's already been on this thing for the 3X. But I do want to do either the kind of inverse one, which is going to be like a vintage black with the gray writing. It'll be the Kelly Green with black writing, or a kind of royal blue, and all of them are going to be heathered, colors, the shirts, and then they'll both have black writing on them as well. So put that out there, and I'll give it about a week of voting and see what you guys think. It'll be on the community page, it'll be on the Bourbon BS podcast page, and we'll put it all together, see where we're at. So thank you guys for sponsoring us every week, or every month rather.
Appreciate it.
And then also Tinder Box at Easton, thank you for the Leaf by Oscar, the Sumatra. This is a great cigar, like we said. If you guys are just tuning in on the live, just kick it back a little bit, and you'll see our ratings on that, learn a little bit about that. Also, Altadis USA will be lighting up the Monte Cristo Espada Oscuro, which is a bit fuller body. We've featured it on the podcast before, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll be lighting that up here shortly. Thank you, Altadis and Josh Bentley, for all the hard work you guys have done for us and keeping us going. See it behind us, the banner there for the makers of Romeo Julieta, Monte Cristo, H. Upman, as well as Butera, Onyx, Aging Room, and several others. Trinidad. Just some great lines, some very historical lines there. And then also BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver are available. And you got Nicaraguan tobacco throughout. One is the gold is through Plasencia, which is fantastic tobacco, medium body. And then the silver is going to be from Lozona and Espinosa, more pepper, a little bolder. Smoked the silver today, and it's like, I asked Brian, right? He's the B of the BS. I said, when was the last time you smoked a silver? He's like, it's been a while. I was like, this is a good cigar, man. And he's like, yeah, I know it is. And I was like, you should smoke one again, because it's a good cigar. So I
remember when the first time he smoked that Rubito.
Yeah.
That you had brought in 10 event 2 years ago.
Yeah.
For the 20th anniversary.
Right. The Rubito size 6x46.
Yeah. He loved it and wished you had bought more, but there was a story behind that. You're like, I thought I was risking my job just getting these.
Risking my credit card, not my job.
It could have gone either way.
Yeah. Once again, yeah, exactly. So, but guys, thank you very much. Again, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. And I want to thank Brandon from Bourbon Charity.
Yes.
Again, if you guys are just tuning in live on the feed, or if you're clicking ahead or whatever, listen to the first part of this part one. So part one of part one. Fantastic organization. And I think they're doing some great things. And between the audience here, I know we have on the virtual audience, you guys are looking into it, which I appreciate. We had some studio audience members. They matched our Bourbon and BS podcast donation, or we're going to do the raffle, $50. And then Sonny from last week threw up $50. Daniel, who's been a part of the studio audience many times, he threw down $20. So $120 just coming from the garage tonight for this charity. And I think it's a great organization. I was really kind of blown away at what all they're doing. I mean, in 2 years, doing almost $1 million in charity dollars is phenomenal. So check them out, Bourbon Charity. And they're on social media, and they've got their own website. They got merchandise as well. It goes to the charity as well. So, guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Move your fingers. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Anyone that's just tuning in or staying on the live, we're going to do a quick intermission. Do you guys want to open that up a little bit? It is getting a little smoky in here. You can stand by the heater. I'll turn up the heater real quick. If anyone needs to hit the header or anything. Good.
I'm good.
Good.
So Nate, you're a rye guy now, right?
I like ryes, yeah. Yeah, Sonny's asking me if I like ryes. I will say, when we had the gentleman from Chicken Cock Whiskey on, I rated that rye as one of my absolute favorite ryes ever. Really, for me, my favorite ryes are like the Chicken Cock rye, the Angel's Envy rye, and then some of the Willet ryes I've had. Now, those can get a little crazy. Like, they used to do the 3-year. Now the lowest one they do is a 4-year. But then there's also some that are even older than that are just ungodly expensive.
Me being a whiskey guy, I haven't really gotten into rye as much, but you said that was kind of a good start. It's the one we're looking at tonight, the 6-year.
Because it still has such a high corn content. So just like with bourbon, in order for it to be a bourbon, it's got to be at least 51% corn in the mash bill. Yeah. In order for it to be a rye, it's got to be at least 51% rye, and that's what this is. It's a 51% rye, 37% corn. So that's why you still get a good amount of sweetness.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Woodford's another good one too, and they were at 53% rye.
I had a Woodford rye, man. I wasn't a big fan of that, but
really,
yeah, maybe it might. Honestly, that 2% might be something. You know what I mean? Who knows?
It could be. It could be. Yeah.
I think you were blowing out that mic there, Sonny.
Sorry. Yeah, but thank you for that.
Yeah. And then also, like, I know after Woodford first came out with that the malt, I brought that on the podcast, and that was when Jake was still a part of the show, and Jake was worried that since it said it was malt, that it was going to be more like a scotch, and he wasn't looking forward to that. But it was only a 51% malt, so again, just enough to be classified as a malt. So and it had a nice balance because it had this nice nutty texture to it. And so, I mean, it's one of those where if you're not necessarily a Scotch guy doing a malt like that, where it's only 51%, it's a good step in that direction. That's why I was saying this would be a good step towards something that's, that traditional 95% rye. And I've even got some, like there was one I had that I brought on the podcast, the Mastersons.
Yeah.
That's a 10-year rye, and it's a $75 bottle. Yeah, and I compared that to another rye that when it was regularly available in the state of Ohio, it was a $20 rye, and it was only a 2-year.
Ezra Brooks rye?
Yeah. And I'd love that. I'd love the Ezra Brooks.
Pretty sure it was a unanimous across the table that we all kind of like the Ezra Brooks better than Mastersons.
The Ezra Brooks had greater depth of flavor. The Mastersons being 10-year was a little smoother.
Yeah.
But the thing I thought was very interesting comparing those two bottles side by side was the 2-year rye of the Ezra Brooks was actually a darker color than the 10-year Mastersons.
Yeah. I think a lot of that could play into the fact of where it was aged in the rick houses too.
Well, in the Mastersons, I believe was aged in Canada and then bottled in California. I could be completely wrong.
That would make a lot of sense.
I'm trying to go back 2 years.
Colder climates.
There's not going to be as much
fluctuation
variety in the temperature.
High West makes a lot of really great rice too, although it's all sourced through MGP, but all of their ryes are phenomenal too.
Yeah,
and I thoroughly enjoy them.
Yeah, and there's quite a few ryes out there that MGP does source out to other distillers.
Oh, tons.
Yeah,
tons. Angel's Envy's rye.
Yeah, exactly. So Angel's Envy,
rye.
Yeah, Angel's Envy makes their own bourbon, but they source their rye.
Yeah.
They do all their bourbon and stuff in house, but not the rye. Their operation there in Louisville hasn't quite got to the point to where they can integrate everything into that one facility that they have. But they also finish. So they finish their bourbon in port barrels. They finish their rye in rum barrels.
Yeah,
and
Caribbean rum.
When I took a tour of their facility, the rum barrels are a lot smaller, and the good thing about those, like, they just sit there and reuse them as much as they can.
Yeah.
Obviously, bourbon barrels can only be used for bourbon once, and then those barrels will typically go to a rum distiller to age in. But they just sit there and they reuse those. I think they were 25-gallon barrels from the rum that they use to finish
age
it.
A lot faster.
They do, but it's a finishing with that. It's not what they're doing the whole aging, but that's one of those ryes where the first time I had the Angel's Envy rye, I had it neat, straight up, and I wasn't a huge fan. Then I added just a little bit of water to it, and kind of like what you talk about, Steve, with the Willet 3-year, it's like Christmas in a glass.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it to it, Lars.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 154, part 2. We are going to be talking tonight about give or take. That is kind of stemmed off of the first part. So if you guys are just clicking on part 2 on the audio, or you're just tuning in now live, we had Brandon from Bourbon Charity, fantastic organization. We highlighted their efforts and what they're doing coming up here, actually, which coming up until February 14th, Valentine's Day, you can get in on their current Roses for Kids raffle / whatever, but you can buy tickets. And we luckily, when we talked about here on Bourbon and BS podcast, is going to throw $50 towards that. We had people in the audience here in the garage match that and then up that. So they made us look bad, which is fantastic. But we appreciate all that support from you guys. And then we had some people in the audience virtually that are also going to get involved. So check that out. We're going to share all that information on the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook, as well as the social media, Instagram, and also the Facebook page for Bourbon and BS podcast. With that, I want to thank our patreon.com patrons, patreon.com/Bourbon BS podcast. You guys can be a part of this and help us out and keep this going as well. And this has really grown again with Brandon being on. That was all through the connections, through the podcast. And this is something that, a year or so ago wouldn't be possible. And I love the effort of the community and getting the word out there, sharing it. This would be a good time for you guys to share the podcast. If you're listening to it, either on the audio, or if you're listening live, get it out there on any pages that you're involved in, or even on your personal, if you think it's appropriate for people that follow you. So that's fantastic. But this is a way for you guys to get involved and also get T-shirts as well, which say pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together.
Yep.
Which I love the T-shirts and it's awesome. And I love the support. You guys are making this worthwhile every week for me to do, these guys to be involved in, and you guys to do that as well. So also Tinder Box at Easton. I'm finishing up the Leaf by Oscar, which we highlighted in the first part of episode 154 tonight. That's going to be available at Tinder Box and nationwide. So check that one out. Leaf by Oscar Sumatra. And then also Altadis USA. I am looking forward to smoking, as always, the Monte Cristo Espada Oscuro. So thank you, Josh Bentley with Altadis, for helping us out and keeping this thing going as well, and giving us that kind of backbone of sponsorship for the last 2 years. So fantastic there. And then also BS Cigar Company. We talked about that. The gold and silver are available. All the Nicaraguan tobacco come from different factories, medium-bodied and medium full, respectively. Those are available now as well. So you can contact BS Cigar Company or also Tinder Box at Easton, and they can get that out to you. Or if you're in the Columbus area, stop by Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio, and pick up some BS Gold.
Absolutely.
So Cesar says he has a question. This is the time again. Every Wednesday
like
we do this.
permission.
No, I love it. Yeah, Cesar, anything you want here. But yeah, get this out there to everyone else. We love having you guys listen in live. It helps with the conversation, and that's what I'm looking forward to tonight. Not only in the studio audience, but also with you guys out there. So give or take, it's something I don't give enough to charity. For the longest time, I try to when I can. I'm one of those people that it's like we talked about tonight with buying a bottle of bourbon. Cesar says, is there an annual support option for the podcast? You could just basically, if that's what you're asking, Cesar, you can do a one-time donation and then cancel it. Or you can put in anything. He says, I don't like monthly fees. So, or you can talk to me and we'll talk about PayPal.
Well, last year we had a newer listener that did a one-time $500 donation. That'll cover them for a little while.
Yeah. Anything you can do. So Cesar, if you want to do a cash donation, come see me at Fido. We'll do it over drinks. We'll figure it out.
As in buy Steve's bar tab.
No.
Oh.
It's pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. We'll figure out how to do a annual support option.
Just set a reminder on your calendar every year, January 1st.
I'll text them every January 1st. Cesar.
Need your money.
I think it's great. But no, I don't, because it's something that I don't do things like that. I look at, my monthly expenses and I do well. I don't do amazing as far as financially. Life changes go on. And it's not, I don't want to be selfish, but I do look at that what we talked about tonight, where instead of buying that $50 bottle, it's those little things where you say, okay, people budget. Nate, you're great at budgeting. We've talked about it before on the podcast. He's fantastic at budgeting, but it's something where, like, instead of that $50 bottle, tonight I'm going to do a $35 bottle, but I'm going to set that $15 aside, go to Bourbon Charity, or I'm going to go to another charity, or I'm going to stockpile this, or, and donate it at some point to a cause or an event that I'm at. There are things you can do. And I also think that with the give or take, type of a thing, you know, as far as the topic, the other aspect of it is in life is, you know, giving in a job, in a relationship, in just everyday life, giving versus taking. And I think what I want to talk about is kind of like what I put on the subject is as far as the description of tonight's podcast. Do you have a good balance, or can you find a good balance of giving and taking? Do you give more than you take? Do you take more than you give? And what are the benefits, pros and cons to every aspect of that equation? I think that sometimes, you know, for me, there are times where I give more than I should in certain situations, only to have it blow up in my face. And then you have to handle that. Or if it goes well, you have to kind of deal with that as well, if positive or negative that comes out of the situation. If you take, do you feel guilty? You know, or do you feel like that's what the right move is there? So there's a lot going on with, I think, the options of this topic. And I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from the people out in the audience virtually and also in the garage.
I think it might help if we tackle like each subject, give or take one at a time, like relationships, work, charity, or volunteer stuff. Like, you know,
each one's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I think there's different like parameters and stipulations that kind of go with each one. To kind of go, I guess, piggybacking on the charity piece.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start there, like charity and volunteer.
Yeah.
Right. So I've volunteered for things in the past. You know, I've gone to some nursing homes around like Memorial Day and Veterans Day, and I'll go and play taps out in like their courtyards and stuff. And, you know, some would come out and listen. Others, you know, they could probably hear it from the room because I'm not necessarily the quietest trumpet player. But it was
Most trumpet players aren't quiet.
No, we're not. But it was small and it was kind, but it was, you know, it was just a small gesture that I could do to kind of help pay respects for, you know, those who have served and those who have fallen, you know, over the years.
Sure, yeah.
And, you know, I'll play the other service hymns as well. And, you know, I had all those memorized at one point. As far as like monetary goes, I definitely could and should be better about that myself. At the same time, it's kind of difficult in some aspects because there are some charities out there, quote unquote, that, you know, kind of take advantage of it. And I feel like sometimes it's hard to tell. And it's not to, you know, say anything bad about the charities that are doing well and doing the right thing out there. It's just, it takes a few rotten apples to kind of ruin the bag for some people. So I get kind of picky and choosy as far as who I'm going to donate for and what it's to. But I like to do things towards those that are important to me. So, you know, the diabetics, so, you know, foundations, I tend to go through those
charities, you pick the causes.
You know, things that are important to me because, you know, 85-90% of my family is diabetic. And same goes with Kathy's side. And so, you know, it's really important to me. And, you know, my great aunt is, you know, bless her heart, she'll be, I think, 95 in March. And she's a breast cancer survivor.
That's awesome.
Not
the breast cancer part, but the survivor.
Right. And the crazy thing about it is growing up, I never knew any of that until probably like 5 or 7 years ago that was the case. So it plays, you know, a bigger role in my life. And I'm sure there's other people out there that can relate to that. But, you know, I think giving to that helps me take away some positivity from it in a sense.
Say that again.
So me giving to those charities allows me to take away that positive feeling that I'm doing something for the greater good.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily taking it.
No.
It's just, more of a feeling.
I like that because sometimes, you know, people look at that and I've heard people say, you know, you shouldn't do it just to make yourself feel good. And I not just to make yourself feel good, but you can feel good.
Yeah.
Doing that. Are you looking at your notes?
Yeah, I'm looking at stuff.
I can't read it from here.
I know.
I can't actually. I can see it. No, I can't. Yeah, I think, you know, we can keep on the charity, but I also want to throw this in there. This year, especially, giving and taking was a new meaning because I'm not saying it's just charity that you needed to support We talked about this a lot this year, and everyone
Yeah.
talked about it, supporting local business. It was something that we had, that these businesses that aren't necessarily, you know, charity organizations, but it was, you know, did you get out there? Did you get carry out? We talked about it months back.
Oh yeah.
Where at the time it was like, you know, we would carry out instead of doing the Uber Eats, but then it's like sometimes you'd Uber Eats or DoorDash or what have you, because the delivery systems are, you know, different areas. It makes more sense, but it was also giving to support. You could easily go to, you know, a Kroger, or you could go to a grocery store or something like that, get your own stuff and do it yourself, staying inside. But once the restaurants started opening up, I think that was something that's not necessarily charity, but it's not the classic charity, but it was keeping people working.
It was giving back.
It was giving back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's not a charity in a sense, like in that particular term. It's giving back to the community to kind of help keep everyone else, you know, not necessarily afloat, but to give them that support.
Yeah. So Cesar, who asked the question there, I'm going to pull this up here, and I love this because we're just introducing it, and I'm sorry to be kind of all over the board here, but I like this interaction. Let me pull up. So he says, there's a transition there, right? Sometimes. So he says, I took a lot while I was a full-time student from my dad, but it feels like now I am paying it back exponentially. That happens.
Student loan.
Just like any other loan.
Student loan.
But then he also says, you know, I wish I could give more to certain charities. Unfortunately, I send money overseas for my family monthly. So I think that as my giving. That's, I think, part of it. I think, again, I don't want to keep going back to 2020 necessarily, but I feel as though a lot of the times it was like, you got to do the right thing. And the person telling you, do the right thing, it's what they want you to do with your money or your efforts. It's not necessarily like you can have like Cesar out there, you know, he is going big picture as far as geographically maybe, but it's for a smaller circle. It's not necessarily a defined charity, but it's support. It's giving. It's the mentality of giving, being there for the people, whether it be financially, whether it be emotionally, whether it be just being there. That's putting yourself out there and giving.
I think part of that, sorry, not to cut you off, but I think part of that is kind of goes back to what, like, kind of how I grew up, and something that I was told is you need to take care of your own before you can help others.
Well, that's the whole oxygen mask in an airplane.
Yeah, exactly.
Which lately keeps coming up quite a bit. But.
Right.
Well, also don't put just, you know, don't go to like if you're in the fifth row, don't go to the first row to put their oxygen mask on. Take the ones in your row first.
Yeah.
And then keep branching.
Yeah, that cord's only so long.
They have their own masks.
But no, when we're talking about charity, whenever I look at giving to charity, or give or take for charities, I always look at it giving money versus giving time, because there's different aspects to both.
Right? Okay.
I think
for charities.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So like for me, like if I donate money to a charity or to a cause, like, yeah, I might feel good about like, I'm supporting this charity, but that's it. That's as far as it goes. But if I actually volunteer my time to that charity, I actually find that I get more out of it personally. It makes me feel better giving my time and energy.
Yeah.
Because I'm helping them out in more ways than just financially. When I was a senior in high school, my school had a requirement for seniors that for graduation, by the time you graduated, you had to have 60 hours of community service your senior year before you graduated. Like that was one of the requirements in our school. And so people, had to, and you could actually start the second half of your junior year. But so basically you had a year and a half to do 60 hours of community service work. And, it could be for a charity, for a church, for a local organization, whether it's doing car washes or whatever it was, something that gave back to the community. Like you didn't have to give money. You had to give up your time to focus on the community around you.
Okay.
And I get more joy and benefit out of actually giving my time and being there in person than I do if I'm just writing a check.
Is that what it's about though? What you get from it?
No, but it's not just about how it makes you feel. Yes, I feel better giving myself, but I think when you're giving your time and effort, it can have a greater impact than just giving money. Because if you're giving money to a charity organization, some of that money goes towards their operating costs, and then some of it goes to the actual charities. And any charity, you can look up like what percentage of donations actually go to the cause, what percentage goes to the organization and their operating costs. If you give your time and energy, 100% of that is going to the efforts of that charity.
So for you, I guess it's more about knowing where your contribution is going.
That's part of it, but it's partly that it's, yes, it makes me feel better.
There's nothing wrong with, I'm not taking that away from you. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I'm trying to clarify what you're getting at.
I feel like I do more good actually helping in person than I would just because writing a check or throwing cash in an envelope, like that's very impersonal. It's very detached.
It can be. Yeah.
If you're actually, like Dusty, you're talking about going to nursing homes, like that is very personal. Mm-hmm. That is very involved type of giving. You're not just writing a check to someone to go play trumpet. Yeah. You're actually going to go play trumpet at this home.
Yeah.
Ian says for most charities, time equals money to them. I mean, yeah. I will say, like with the charities, within reason, obviously there's the charities that get kind of like busted or whatever, that it's very little dollars going to it.
God, yeah.
I mean, we get that a lot. We have the Wounded Warrior Project as one. They went through some tough times where they were not doing things the right way, and it became public, and then they redid what they were doing. The leaders of that, stepped down, and then they kept it going. And then you have these people like, it's like UNICEF or some of these major global ones. And people get pissed that the people that are like the CEO of said organization, the equivalent of a CEO, they're like, oh, these people are making like, 6 figures or 7 figures. And I'm like, the global scope that they have, who do you want doing that? And I'm not saying negative. I don't want to come across too rude, but it's like, do you want like a suburban soccer mom that, she's running UNICEF, or do you want someone with, a doctorate and 2 masters that knows how to actually run an organization that it actually is effective? They can either go work for a corporation because they are qualified and they want to make a living, or do you want them to say, you know what, I'm going to go off $50,000 a year to run this global entity.
Yeah.
That's, like sometimes depending on the scope, if you get too big, I mean, yeah, it's great to have the small things where it's like, if we, as a podcast, we're like, Bourbon Charity, I think that's fantastic that they're doing everything they're doing. But if you get bigger scope, sometimes there are the logistics. There's the admin stuff to have that. You can't always have 100% volunteers if you want to get bigger and bigger and bigger. These aren't retired people. They're not volunteers all the time. These people are doing nonprofit work, but they also have to make a living.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not that whole like almost like socialist idea where it's like, well, you're giving away all this stuff, so you should make less money. It's like, no, I'm doing good things. I'm not going to make exorbitant amount of money, but again, that's relative. So again, sometimes there are fees, if you will, or if you look at a P&L statement, there are costs that go into this. Yeah. Marketing things, it can't always be 100%.
So a decade ago, when I was working at Battelle, which Battelle is a nonprofit, but it's the largest nonprofit research and development company in the world. And I was, because it was a nonprofit, they would actually post every year like the salaries of executives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I'd actually researched it, and this is going back to 2012. The average CEO of all nonprofits, their salary as a whole on average was at that time $125,000 a year. If you looked at just the top 500, it was about $225 a year. And then the president and CEO of Battelle at that time was making about 2.1 million.
Okay.
But again, you're talking about someone who is in charge of a company that has locations throughout the entire globe and is operating over 15,000 employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a huge difference. But then some of those you do see some where it's like a famous one was March of Dimes.
Yep.
Like, what was it? 10% of all their donations actually go towards the cause. The other 90% are operational costs. But then you have some organizations and charities that are the opposite.
Yeah.
Where like 90% of their cost is going to the charity or the organization that they're fighting for.
Right.
The great thing about that is we have a choice of who we donate to, right? Whether
Yeah.
it be time or money, but I mean, that's one of those things. It's up to them. So I think that if you don't like the way a charity is doing their stuff, then donate somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Or donate your time.
Or donate your time. Yeah, absolutely. I think that the time is obviously valuable. Ian out there, I'll throw it up there. He says, the point is that when you find yourself in a position of excess time or money or things, and you came through times where you got help or needed and didn't get it, remember what it feels like and give back. Have to leave it better than you found it. I mean, this is something that, again, and Cesar was saying that as well earlier. It's like it's kind of a full circle thing.
Mm-hmm.
There are times that you're in need, and we talked about it actually was last week, right? Where it's like sometimes you're in that position where you're taking a little bit. When
Sonny
Sonny was on, but he's our future guest. I'm drawing a blank. Brian Penn.
Oh yeah.
So Brian Penn was talking about sometimes in a relationship or whatever, in certain personal relationships, not necessarily romantic, but personal relationships, there were times where he would kind of take more than he'd give. And I think that's something that, if you have a good radar or a good sense of where you're at in that, then you can alter that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, with this, it's absolutely. These are basics, I think, especially in the US, is there are times that you need to lean on it financially or otherwise that you need to take. And then hopefully when you get in a position, or if you have excess time, but you're taking financially, you can put your time out there. If you're taking this money to get through student loans, like you mentioned, Nate, Dustin, student loans, sorry. Then you pay that back. And then hopefully at a time when you are making more money, you can give something. That's the big thing with like universities. They always call for donations. And I remember when I was like 2-3 years graduated and they're like, hey, would you like to donate? I'm like, I'm still scraping by to pay off what I actually had to get through this. So I don't have the money to donate.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm, at the time I was making, whatever, $40,000 a year. And it's like, well, I can barely afford my apartment and everything else. And I also got the student loan going on, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse.
But then it's the people that have gotten further along, typically they're going to be a little bit older, and they've done well for themselves throughout their career, that now they're in a position to where they can actually give more. And that's one of the positions that my wife and I want to be in is, yes, we've always given in the time that we've been married, but we want to eventually get to the point where we can give more, where we're secure enough and we have what we need, that we can give more of the excess that we have.
Yeah.
Right.
So that brings up a topic point that I think is, when you are right now not taking, but you're reserving yourself to the point where you can give more. Sometimes when I feel like some people, whether it be financially or emotionally or just energy wise, you're giving. I find that people that do that a lot, they're just giving a lot. They don't know how to admit that they, at this point, may need to take.
Yes.
They give. And it's all perspective, right? So other people might look at them differently, that they are maybe takers or they're selfish or whatever. But it's like one of those things is that you give. And then when you need help, you don't ask for it. That's the balance that I was kind of referring to in the beginning of part 2, is that there needs to be a self-assessment, or basically like a vulnerability there, that if you need to do this, at some point you need to take or ask it's not taking as a negative. And I think when you look at give or take, or like if you look at a business or a personal relationship, there are times where you're giving and taking. Giving is positive, taking is negative. Not always the case. Sometimes it's a necessity thing.
Yeah.
But I think emotions, especially these days, sometimes emotions will bury you that you won't ask for help.
Do you think
you won't communicate?
Do you think it's a pride thing?
I was just thinking that.
So sometimes it's a pride thing. I think sometimes it's a pride thing with that connection, right? So you have this opportunity to communicate with your partner, with your friend, with your boss or whatever. But who do you communicate with? Your coworkers, your friends, everyone but the source, because you may feel guilty of actually asking for something. And this could be attention, listening, like we've talked about, the active listening part that we had with Bourbon and Blondes on not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
It could be money. It could be anything. It's like you talk about, like, let's classic scenario. You think you're undervalued, underpaid, all this stuff. Who do you talk to? Do you ever go in and actually talk to your supervisor or your boss or the owner of the company and say, hey, I want to talk about this. I feel like, it's been this long, I want to ask for a raise because of all the outstanding, outside factors, or I know we're hiring in at this or whatever it might be. No, typically people don't do that. They bitch and moan. They talk to everyone else about what's wrong about this situation. And then it just is like a quicksand situation. Now all of a sudden you just get more and more pissed off. You get more and more angry. All you do is fucking talk about it instead of actually addressing said issue. And I think that translates a lot to some personal things, when you get into personal relationships, friends, romantic relationships, husbands and wives, you have like even family issues, brothers, sisters, everything, parents, kids, all that stuff. It goes down to that communication, because when it comes to giving and taking, sometimes it feels very natural, but when the ratio is off, or sometimes you switch roles, whether it be by choice or by circumstance, we talked about that recently last week, that will get to the point where you won't actually take the action that you may need to do to switch your role and realize that. Daniel, go ahead.
So you were talking about how there's a, giving is positive, taking is negative. And, we've all been in that position where we've had to ask for something we didn't necessarily want to ask for. We've needed that help. But what we should kind of keep in the back of our minds when we're in that position is, while it may be a negative for us to go and ask somebody for help, if we don't, we're depriving them of that positive of helping.
Say that again.
That's good.
One more time.
If we don't ask for help, it might be a negative for us, but if we don't ask for help, we then deprive that person who could help us of the positive of giving to us and helping us.
Right. So I had someone actually text me who's watching on YouTube, and she doesn't have Facebook, but she said she's going to watch tonight. And she recently donated a kidney to a family member.
Wow.
That's giving.
That's what I texted her back. I said, giving. And she said, donating a kidney is the best. Yeah. I mean, physically, it's a little challenging from what I understand, but it's something that, you do something like that. And I asked how, and I'm not going to get into the personal relationship, but I mean, how's the recipient doing? And she's like, great. It's like, it's amazing how, how that, I think she said how that little of a thing. I'm like, that's not a little thing, but something like that is you.
Was it someone that they know personally, or
family member?
Okay. Yeah. Because I was thinking, like, sometimes you'll see those stories of, someone's spouse,
random donation, or
someone's spouse needs a kidney, and so they put on the back of their vehicle, my spouse needs a kidney, here's the number and everything, and then people line up to get tested, and they're complete random strangers. I know that happened with a good friend of mine back in middle school. We had he needed he had leukemia. He was diagnosed with leukemia in 6th grade and needed a bone marrow transplant. And there were a couple hundred people that went and got tested to see if they were a match to be able to donate. Now,
Wow.
some of them knew the family. They weren't related at all,
Right.
but they knew. And then there were some people that heard the story and were like, I'm going to go get tested. And if you've ever given bone marrow, it is a very painful process. And so, giving an organ or giving bone marrow, that's not something to be taken lightly. But there are people out there that are willing to go through that process because they see the hand further away, that you allude to something. They see the bigger picture down the road.
Who says that?
You say that a lot.
I know.
Was that supposed to be rhetorical?
Uh,
But no, they're looking at it as a way to help someone, whether they know them or not. And
well, I'm gonna.
sometimes, and a lot of times, that person goes completely unknown. That donor goes unknown, so they're not doing it for their own glory. They're doing it because they want to help.
Well, I think this, kind of goes into that. I stand corrected. I just got corrected through text. Yeah. So this family was actually part of a chain, is the way she says it. Her kidney went to a man that had been waiting 10 years for one. And then her family member, her mom, got one in the process.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
So kind of it's what you're saying, right? So it's like you're aware of this situation. So you're like, all right, well, I'll contribute to the chain or to the good efforts, good energy, and try to help. And in the process, it comes back.
Yeah.
Like they were willing to donate a kidney, and maybe they couldn't, they weren't a match for who they wanted to give to, but they were a match for someone.
Yeah.
And then someone else happened to be a match for the person that they wanted to help. So it kind of came around full circle.
Two things that's amazing, and one that's amazing, and second, I need to get better at my listening skills. I need to listen back to our active listening podcast.
What's that?
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, I'm sorry.
Come again?
No.
I think kind of transitioning from the charity piece and giving and taking, Steve, you kind of touched on it a little bit, as well as you, Daniel, but I know I'm a giver more than a taker. I don't like asking for help.
In what areas or what aspects?
Just in general, as far as like my own personal health, I guess, if you will, mental health, mental state,
But like
I'm financial in some aspect of the financial. I don't. I just will figure out a way to make it work, one way, shape, or form. If I have to sell limbs, then that's what I'm going to do. Maybe not that far, but
say there is a market for that. I'm sure.
I'm sure there is. But I think twofold, you have to be able to by taking a step back and focusing on yourself, because like we've said before, the whole oxygen mask, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And I know my fiance is very much so the giver. She has and always probably will be that one who will go and help anyone and worries about everyone else and wants everyone else to be happy and in the right place, especially with her family. And, she worries a lot, and, I try to help her with kind of taking a step back and focusing on herself and her own health and things like that, and focusing on cadence, which, cadence takes number one priority over anything and everything anyways. So I think that kind of goes out to anyone else out there that, if you are a giver, don't be afraid to take a step back and look in the mirror and, what do I need to work on myself? And I know I got to work on that too, but anyone else out there, viewers who are struggling with that, throw some comments and questions out there and see if there's anyone else who has similar, I want to call them issues or opportunities with it.
No,
what do you guys think?
So I think there are times where you get in this cycle, like you're talking about, like with Kath or other people, and not to focus on her, but there are times where you lose yourself. To your point, you're talking about, sometimes you have to focus on yourself so that you can, build yourself up and be there for other people. But there are times you get in this habit where you put yourself last.
Yeah.
We closed the door there. Yeah. I mean, well, I don't smoke in the house, but we smoke in the house now. No, I think you put yourself last.
Yeah.
And that's a very, you're not going to be a good giver if you're putting yourself last. And to your point, in a different way of looking at it is that you have to focus on yourself sometimes, because if you don't, and you don't put your mask on, we keep going back to that metaphor, but if you don't do that, you have a limited amount of giving you can actually achieve if it's at your own sacrifice all the time.
Is there a specific area you're thinking about when you're saying this? Because we've talked about like giving to charity, giving
Like
charity,
personal
world
health.
All of it. All right,
relationships.
let's go charity, right? So okay, so say you make $50,000 a year, you make $100,000 a year, right? You just give. Then you got to pay your mortgage. You don't have money for your mortgage because you fucking give it away.
Now you're making.
Now, how much more can you donate at this point? Because now you're going to be homeless. You're going to be kicked out. You give away so much money that now you can't afford your food. So now you're on, but you can't get food stamps. You can't get some of the other things, or you can't. Now you won't ask for help because you gave it away. So that was a great question, Nate, because I look at it as if you are constantly giving, you will run out of your own personal resources.
Whether it's money, time, energy,
Emotion,
yeah,
stability.
yeah. I think a lot of times that emotion comes with relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I mean, you can give everything you have in a relationship, and maybe the other person's not a giver. So then, what are you getting? What is the benefit there if you're?
It's not. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think it's also the fact that if you're constantly focused on the other person, it's like when you're dating. Like think back, right? So when you're dating, and all you want to do is make, it's not always the case, but we're all guys here, right? But you're always trying to make this person like you. You're always trying to make this person happy.
Yep.
Once again, going back to that, if you're giving, you're putting yourself last. So therefore, it's like, who are you? Who's the core at that point? Because at that point, all you're trying to do is make this girl, like, I'm going back to, high school or whatever, so you're trying to make this person like you. And all you're doing is making them like, you're like, oh, they want this and all that stuff. You're not even your fucking self anymore. Mm. So what's the point? They're not going to like you back because all you're doing is just doing everything they say. That's not a relationship.
Yeah.
Same thing with a boss and with business. It's like if all you're doing is saying yes, at a certain point they're gonna be like, what the fuck do you think we should do?
Yeah.
I haven't thought of that. I was just being a yes man and all that stuff. We had that thing back at my moving company that I worked for over a decade, where it was the acronym, and it was this really long one. What do you think we should do? And it was one of those things that a couple people, myself included, had it in their office where, because you come to me with a problem, I'll tell you what to do. Kind of same boat, right? I'll tell you, you're just asking what I want, and I'll tell you what I want. But at some point, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
So that's that giving and taking thing.
I brought up that example one time. I had an upper manager at AEP that one time I finally sent an email of what I saw as an issue, and they threw it back at me. Like, well, what do you think we should do? And I'm like, oh, I was just sending this email to kind of bitch and moan. I didn't realize I had to come up with a solution to the problem too.
Yeah. So Ian out there says, wait, you're putting yourself last, so she'll put you first. Yin and yang, full circle.
So
I gotta say,
go ahead.
I see where you're coming from, but I don't think that's the case. That is a short-term thing.
Yeah.
That's like, yes, dear, that type of mentality, that's cool. When it's talking about like drapes or, talking about what you want to eat. But when it talks about like real life, and sometimes that's even a backfire. Let's be honest, like, what do you want to eat tonight? I don't care. What do you want? And then it's just a whole fucking night of like, Jesus.
Well, I remember one time I was dating someone. It was new into the relationship. And so every time we were going out, I was doing the, how I was raised, I was paying for the date. If we were going out to dinner, I was paying for dinner every time. And then she asked if I wanted to go to dinner on a particular night. and I was looking at my bank account and I was like, no, I can't. Cause we've been going out and I've been, doing how I was kind of raised and paying
goes back to what I was saying.
Paying for all the dinners. I can't go out because I don't have the money to be able to pay for the date. I want to go out with you, because I'm trying to make a good impression on you. And then, but thankfully this was the kind of person that's like, well, no, I'm going to buy this time. Like, I know you've bought the last 5 times we went out. And, let me pay for this one. What'd you say, Sonny?
Morton's.
What?
Oh, she should have made. I want to go to Morton's, sweetheart.
Go to Morton's. Okay.
Steakhouse.
Oh,
Steakhouse.
Go to a high-end steakhouse. Now it's not my turn to buy. I'm going to take advantage of
I
it.
hope you enjoyed that skyline last time. Yeah. Got you.
But no, it goes back. But it does go to what you had said, Steve, where I was giving everything I could to try and make an impression, and when this person
giving,
and eventually I would be like, I can't because I don't have anything more to give.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, that person was like, well, I'll take care of it this time. Like, thank you.
Yeah. I think that's part of it too, is that you get out of that honeymoon phase, not just a relationship, not just talking about that, but at some point life is happening around you, right? So it's the same thing. I look at even the job aspect, the occupation, the career, right? So you just give.
Oh yeah.
And then finally you're just like, what the fuck am I getting out of this?
Yep.
I mean, it's one of those. All right, Dustin. No. You're not allowed to talk about this one right now.
All right.
I look at it as you can apply this to so much that you got to remember your core values on this. You know what I mean? Because like you were saying, and I think you alluded to it, Nate, whether or not you realize it, that your core values when you go out with a girl, right? Back, now you guys have a more mature, you and Jess have a more mature, like you guys do this together. That's kind of the point. When you're trying, like going back to what we were talking about, is that you try to make the great first impression. And then it's like, you just go and go and go. Your boss asks you for coffee. The girl says, hey, you want to go out? Absolutely. I want to go out because I want to see you, whatever your motives are. But I want to see you. And I want to make you happy. I want to make you like me. I want to make you think that I can take care of you. But then you set yourself up for a fucking backfire, because now all of a sudden it's like, hey, do you want to go out? Yes, but let's go on a walk. Let's go, and then you have to get creative.
That's
because
why
you have no more to give financially.
That's why my wife had bought a book. It's called Dating on a Dime.
There you go.
And it's basically a book of ways that you can go out and have a good time without spending a bunch of money, like activities that
you can still put the effort in. So there's the time.
Exactly.
Now we're getting back to what we talked about in the beginning with the charities.
It's not just
you don't
monetary.
have to write the check. You don't have to do what you're talking about. You can do both, right?
Yeah.
So when you have the means, when you have the means, you can put the money out there. When you don't have the means, you can still put yourself out there.
Absolutely. You have to balance those.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, some of the best times I've been out were, like I have found that, some of the relationships I'd had in the past, some of the best dates were us just hanging out in the park or going on a walk.
Lover's Lane.
Or going to the mall and just walking around the mall and people watching and not buying a damn thing.
That's quite entertaining, though. I'm not going to lie. I thoroughly enjoy that.
Making fun of other people.
Yeah. Or making up conversations for them.
Yeah. Go to Walmart and just people watch. Like,
yes.
Or go.
No. Go to Walmart. No.
No, I'll give you a great one. Go to Polaris.
Oh,
go to Polaris.
Polaris, for those that aren't
watch.
local, by the way, Polaris Mall. It's an indoor mall here.
And we were sitting down at one of the tables on the other end of the escalator, and we were watching these kids like throw Skittles down the escalator to see how far.
This reminds me of Mallrats.
To see how far the Skittles would go down the escalator, then they would take the escalator back down and pick up their Skittles. And then we started having a conversation about the physics of a Skittle going down an escalator.
You guys have a very interesting relationship.
It was
very
awesome.
unique.
Thank God I married that woman.
Thank God you guys had that conversation together. If you start talking physics with a date, it's going to go.
My wife just texted me
one
physics.
One or two ways. not always going to go well.
Well, and
What do you think about the odds? That,
well, it's funny because years later, I'd actually made a post that only my wife would be able to get, and it was, if I had tried to have a conversation about the physics of a Skittle going down an escalator with any of my previous girlfriends, it would have done what disintermediation did to the banks in the 1980s. Wow. My wife was the only person who would get that, and that's why I love that woman.
You guys are two peas in a pod. Here I am thinking of a Mallrats where, what's his face is saying, yeah, I think Kevin Smith, but it was Jason, whatever, he's like, that kid's on the goddamn escalator again. Where is his parents? It's going to be a bloodbath. I have a very simple mind compared to that. If you had that conversation with me, I'd be like, Nate, can we not? Yeah. What, was it like regular Skittles or tropical?
Sour. And my wife keeps texting me like the points of that conversation.
Love it.
Gosh, she's got the bullet points saved in the notes.
What were you gonna say, Dustin?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. What are your thoughts on Skittles?
Well, I know you brought up work a little bit, and
me.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and I'm not allowed to be in that conversation.
Well,
probably best right now.
You probably could give an update as to what's happened with work since the last time you were on.
Today was my first day back in a week and a half.
Oh, okay.
What was your question, Nate?
No, I was.
Or your point?
No, I was gonna say like what. So last week I had my yearly review with my manager, and we typically do a monthly one just to see how things are going. But this was to go over whether or not I hit my goals the previous year and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I brought up again, and I had 4 different managers in the first 4 years in this role. So every year I always felt like I was bringing up the same thing, but I brought up to him. So the main bulk of my work last year was about 30% of the work for the company.
Yeah.
And because I have such a high workload, I always feel guilty taking time off for myself, because that means I am pushing that workload onto the other members of my team. And I feel guilty if I have to do that. But then my manager was like, no, that's actually one of my goals for you this year. It's like, I want you to be able to take more time off for yourself, because our team is expanding soon. So we should have the people to be able to take care of your workloads. That way you can take care of you and do what you need to do.
That's awesome.
But that's always
really
been
awesome.
A struggle for me. My first career out of college, I didn't take vacation the first 2.5 years I was there.
Yeah.
It's just the way I am. I'm a worker. I got that from my dad.
So yeah. I mean, that's one of those things, and I find there again, this is, I think, a valuable point to this when you talk about personal relationships. When all you do is give and you try to sacrifice yourself. I got to be honest. When I was let go, and we talked about it on the podcast before, when I was let go from my last job, it was one of those things where it surprised me, and my only severance, if you will, was that they were going to not dispute unemployment. This is after 12 years, right? And my severance was I could carry over a total, like I could have walking around with 4 weeks vacation. And mind you, I was let go on December 5th.
Right before the holidays. That's a great time.
No, man, it's financially sound for any business. If you're going to fire someone, do it around then. Do it on a Friday because, it's weekend if you have a classic schedule. I mean, it's just easier for everyone except for the person being fired. But I think it's something that when they said you also have a little over 3.5 weeks vacation and we're going to pay you out on that, same thing. There's never a good time to take a vacation because you're trying to make people happy. And what I found was, as I look back at that and full circle in this conversation, is that when you do that and you don't stand up for yourself and take care of yourself at times, then it actually blows up in your face.
Yeah.
Because you're not your core self. You need to actually be selfish sometimes and take for yourself. It doesn't have to be at the sacrifice of anyone else. But if, it's it's something that, you're in your own mind. You're not communicating anymore. You're in your own mind. You think you're doing what's best for everyone involved. But all the other parties around you, if you're not communicating that, they might have a different perspective. And so then all of a sudden you're putting 110% into what you think is right, giving. And then in the end, it blows up in your face because you weren't even taking their feedback. You weren't even taking the interaction. You need to get out there and ask them what they need. You need to ask them what, and then also convey what you need. And that's what I didn't do in that job. I just grinded. And I didn't get that. Relationships are much the same way, that you can put yourself out there, do what you think is best. But if you're not at times listening to yourself, like you were saying, Dustin, with what your situation is, sometimes you need to, and you're talking about Kath and yourself. I know this, and you haven't really talked about yourself tonight much.
No.
Because I shut you down on the work thing. But
it's all right. I'll touch on it a little bit when you're done.
Yeah, it was just it's something that's you need to really focus on yourself and find the balance.
I think to your point, I had 1 week's of vacation left from last year that I still had to take that I pushed back due to everything going on with COVID and everything. There's
this year is an exception for a lot of
things. And tons of people that their vacations got canceled, not just because of flight plans or anything like that, but as working in the grocery retail industry, the company reached out to people who had vacation scheduled, like, listen, is there any way you'd be able to move it? Like, because we need as many hands on deck as we can get. And, there was a lot of people who were like, yeah, like, let's do this. We got a job to do. Now coming full circle, we've got all these people, who've got vacations, which, they've extended time for people to take it. But, I took advantage of, getting mine out this past week. And, I was lucky enough to have, a couple extra days at the end of it. But it was really what I needed, for myself.
Yeah.
And this is twofold. So, I took this time for myself to kind of be at home, spend time with, my family that, I haven't been able to do much at all, really, with, Cadence's busy schedule with school and Dan's 4 nights a week, and Kathy dealing with that and driving her to and from everything to school. And then it's a 45-minute drive, one each way to dance each night, so I never really ever got to see them a whole lot, throughout the week. So this whole past week was really, really nice for me to be able to take a step back from work with all of the stuff that's going on there. And, I've talked a little bit about that. And, but today being the first day back, and we all know how it is going back to work after being off for so long.
Smooth.
It's something.
Super smooth.
But
no emails, no problems.
Yeah. I needed a little extra bourbon cream in my coffee this morning.
You can't.
But
you can't say that.
My coffee was black, and but I went into it with knowing what I was going to walk into. I already knew it, so I was able to hit the ground running. Now, when I say the whole past week was twofold, while I did, was able to take back time for myself to be at home with my family, I had to give, and I had to give a lot more at home because, my fiance's had a lot of unexpected health things that just kind of popped up out of nowhere. And it was completely unexpected for all of us. So, she really hasn't been able to do a whole lot of anything. And she spent, a night at the hospital, and that was really hard on, myself, but even more so on Cadence.
How's Kath doing?
She's better.
Recovering?
She's recovering, okay. Resting.
No, I don't want to get into details.
Yeah, she's got a follow-up appointment on Friday, so
yeah.
We'll know more after that, and kind of go from there. But it's just it's a scary situation.
Thoughts out.
Oh, I thought
you're gonna take it from the bottle. That's cool too. Yeah.
No, I thought you were wanting me to
appreciate it. But yeah, it's a really tough and scary situation because there's a lot of uncertainties with it all. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I think that kind of goes hand in hand because there are times where, you may feel like you're giving and you're giving and you're giving, especially at home with your family, but there's going to be times where you just have to buckle down and give more because your family needs it.
So there are times you have to put yourself last.
And it happens, but you still have to be mindful that you still have to be able to take time for yourself. And, I think there was a way for us to kind of do that because, I was able to just kind of relax and de-stress a little bit at home from work. But at the same time, there was other stressors that I added on with stuff going on at home, but we were together.
Different stressors.
It was different stressors, but, it was a blessing in disguise. The fact that I was off, that I was able to be there.
Interesting.
And be there for her and for Cadence and for all of us. So, I think that's something that kind of gets lost for some people out there is while you may feel like you're giving, you need to take back. There may be a time where you have to buckle down and put yourself last and give more because the people around you who are going to help keep you going, they need you.
And before we go to Sonny, that actually reminds me. So last year when COVID was first going on at work, there were some people that were forced to take time off, and it was unpaid time off. So the company actually put it out there to where people could donate vacation time to other people, so that way those people weren't taking as big a hit on their paycheck.
So, Sonny, what do you got?
Well, first off, hats off to you, sir.
A little bit closer there.
Hats off to you, sir. You get my heart and prayers go out to you.
Not picking up.
You got the black tape. You got to speak that side of the mic.
This side? Is that good?
Not the top of the mic, the side. There you go.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry, we gave you the.
Yes.
What about him? Oh, never mind.
Sign a waiver before I come in. Again, hats off to you, sir. Your true strength to your family.
Appreciate it.
And my hearts and prayers to your wife, and hope the recovery's quick and steady. So you guys were talking about a lot with giving, right? And this goes out to the host as well as to our esteemed guest. Lots of things that go on. You give, and give, right? So anybody, basically everybody in this room today, I know is a giver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Steve and I are conversations, and myself known as Nate, and then now you tonight as well. So you guys are givers. At what point in time, whenever the roles reverse, you actually sit and look in the mirror and say it's okay to receive? To me, I'm a giver as well. And right now I lost my position. I was on my last podcast here with you guys, I kind of threw that out there too. So I'm having a horrible time receiving. My wife is carrying my family. My wife is carrying my emotions. My wife is carrying everything, right? So with you as our guest tonight, man, he's a strong guy, right? He give more. Shit, I have nothing to give. So how do you receive? I'm having a true problem with that. I really like some.
How do you change it from giving to receiving?
Yeah,
or when you say
it's
you
horrible
said a couple
you're
things
in that
there.
mode, right? You're in that mode to receive all day.
I think that
Right?
goes
No,
to that
but you're
pride
not.
thing that we alluded to earlier.
I think that's involved, but I think you made 2 points, right? One, you feel like you have nothing to give.
Truly.
Right. Based on what you know of how you give.
I make her lunches.
Right. So
Like every day.
You're
giving.
That's giving, but I do that every day. Right.
But you're
so what
looking
else
at-
do I give besides, a financial part, which with, oh my God, you know as well as I do. It's a huge, huge thing is finances, right? Especially during this time.
Mm-hmm.
COVID's is everybody's bitch, right? So, it's just COVID knocks everybody down. So we got stimulus coming in. We got all this crap coming in, right? When? It's been 21 days out so far.
Yeah, you're not getting unemployment.
And I
yet.
haven't gotten an unemployment check, for Christ's sake. I'm used to making a 6-figure salary.
All right.
Go ahead with that.
Well, so I got to say this. I'm of the opinion that there's different ways you can give. There's different ways you can take. And you brought it up. Go ahead. Okay, y'all. So financially, that's one, and that's where I feel like you don't know how to take, right? Because you are used to, like a lot of us, most of us, we want to at least contribute. It's not always about making more money. There's this thing where, you know, this age-old thing in America that, you know, the guy is supposed to make more money than the girl, right? I mean, that's just,
be the breadwinner.
That's just, and there's nothing like you can't say that anymore. Yeah, you can, because there are people that are raised that way. There's nothing wrong with it. You want to actually provide, but the teamwork side of it is about the communication. And I think, and I know Sonny's situation a little bit more than others, so I'm going to try to broaden it out there a little bit. But it is that transition. You are more comfortable, Sonny, and a lot of us, most people are more comfortable being in the position that they are the stable one. And the number one reason is because you aren't the vulnerable one. No one likes to be vulnerable. It's not a comfortable position to be vulnerable and to depend on someone. This year, I think, showed us a lot in relationships, businesses. There were some businesses and people that just turtled up, and they were trying to weather the storm. They didn't know what was going to happen. Everything's out of their control. And that's the same thing when what happens to what Sonny's talking about is it's out of their control. It's out of Sonny's control. It's out of, you're not used to being out of control. This is a thing that I'm going through personally, that when things are out of your control, you are uncomfortable does not cover the emotional or physical aspects of the situation that you're in. Because when you're uncomfortable, that means you don't like what's going on. It's foreign. No one, like, most people don't like change, especially when it's dealt to them. It's not a choice. We talked about that last week. It's something that it's just dealt to them. So when you're brought to that point where, well, I don't have control over anything. So now all of a sudden you're treading water, but now the current's picking up. You're like, okay, I can do this for a while. Yeah, it starts flooding. Yeah, Sonny says it floods in. You can't hear him, but it's like now all of a sudden, like, okay, I can tread a little bit longer. I can do this myself. I'm used to actually throwing the life preserver. Someone threw me the life preserver. I don't really want to take it, but I do. And so there's a lot of contradiction there, I think, to what you're saying, because when you're in this position, it's that foreign feeling. It's not normal. And when people don't feel like they have control or they are comfortable, there's a little bit of that panic that comes in. So now you start questioning everything, because mentally, when you start panicking, there are physical things that come into it. I'm not a specialist, obviously. We talk about this a lot on the podcast. We're not experts on this. This is just pure conversation. But there's a time where when you start realizing that you don't have control over your everyday life, when you don't have control over when you wake up, you can start spiraling. You can try to change everything, push everyone away. You can accept people that mean a lot to you, that you mean a lot to them. And you can actually start doing the team effort. So I'll bring it back to sports a little bit here, you know, and Sonny, we know each other very well. You talk about a lot of times where you were on your own. I think a lot of people, like, they build themselves up. If you're an individual sport person growing up, yeah, there's a team behind you, but when you're out there, you're supposed to bring in your side of it. You got the stage, you and you alone. So even being in a relationship, you're already in this situation that's not natural to some people sometimes. So you have to realize that you aren't able to perform to your fullest ability, and you hate it. It's like when you get an injury, you can't do what you should be able to do, and that's defeating. That is taking you down several notches. And when someone else is like, "Hey, I got this. I got this run. I'll do it for us." It's not that you don't want them to help you out. It's not that you want them to do the job that needs to be done at that moment. It's the guilt and the vulnerability that you can't do what you think you should be able to do.
Well, and I think another aspect of that is, you know, whether it's sports, professional relationship, is, or since you're talking about sports, if you're the number one person in your position on the team, you need to help the guy that's behind you. You need to make him a better person or her a better person. You need to make the people on your team better so that in the event that for some reason you're not there and you can't perform, those other people can step into that role and the team doesn't lose any efficiency.
Yeah. So there's times you have to be on the sideline, because right now, what Sonny was asking about, with the job and the contributing aspect of it is you can contribute in other ways. You take that for granted that you cook, you do all this stuff, right now you got a different role, but there's a time that the injury or this situation will heal to the point that you're back stronger than ever.
It'll leave a scar though.
Sometimes it helps,
because what Sonny's talking about, the lowest I ever felt in my life was when I lost my job 7 years ago. And I was my wife has been working. She's always worked ever since we got married. But this was my dream job. I took a chance, took a risk, left a career, started something else, and was making way more money and lost that position. And, I felt bad because of what it did to us as a household, because it put all the financial responsibility on my wife. And I absolutely hated that. So then as as I've worked my way back up and my career's gone on, that's all that reminder of that loss and what it did to our household has always been a scar that has, in a lot of ways, has held me back at times from pursuing that role again, or it's made me stay more content where I am rather than taking a risk and trying something else, because I don't ever want to happen again. Because again, that was the lowest I ever felt in my life. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go through that. I don't want to put my wife through that.
Yeah.
So sometimes that holds me back from taking a risk again. And
Dustin.
That's that scar.
So, Sonny, I know, I feel like we're very similar in the fact of giving and giving and giving and like
kindred spirits.
Yeah. And, like you made the comment, like you don't know how to take. And I don't think in your situation, because I've been there, I have, trust me, and it sucked tremendously. I don't think it's a matter of taking from others. It's how do you take control of what happened for you and move in the direction that's going to be best for you. And then utilize that to where you can get back into your role that you feel, I guess, the most comfortable in, to be that kind of giver, or maybe not necessarily the breadwinner, but to contribute more to where you feel comfortable, if that makes sense. Something for me is, I can't sit here and say that I'm happy with where I'm at with my career, because I'm not, but I've been slowly working on reading through a study guide to take my PHR certification to become a professional human resource person, if you will. Yeah.
Terminology.
And it is, and, I have a business degree. It's not in human resources, but, in my experiences throughout my career, I've dealt with a very wide variety of scenarios that can translate to that. It's just building my own knowledge. And I'm doing that because I want to not only better myself, but my ultimate goal is to be able to provide even more for my family, to be able to give more. So I'm taking on that knowledge to build myself, and I'm taking control of that to be able to in turn give back more to my family and be able to have maybe a little bit more time with them and be in a position where, I really enjoy what I do. And, maybe it's a career change for you. I don't know, because I don't know your whole story. But I think it's a mindset kind of thing too, where, what happens sucks, but the more we sit and we dwell on it and we wonder, do we need to take that life raft, or do we just start swimming to the edge? Maybe we grab that buoy to kind of help pull us in a little bit, but rather than waiting for that current to pick up, rather than waiting for it to sweep us down the river, start swimming.
Well, I think
start moving, start kind of taking control and make those moves. And maybe you got to grab the buoy and get the assist. It happens. And sometimes we just have to swallow our pride with that. But in the end goal, we're still taking control of our own role in our own life to better ourselves.
Well, I think a great point you're touching around is you were unhappy. Okay, what are you going to do about it?
Okay.
And instead of just sitting there pissing and moaning about it, actually taking steps to improve the situation. Did you have something to add, Sonny?
Yeah, Sonny must. Yeah.
So that was a great point. I really appreciate that, man. Seriously, that was very enlightening. There's quite a few factors, that you sit there and you think about, and you go through all the scenarios and you go through, hey, as we talked about in the last podcast, the mirrors and things of that nature, you're looking in things and you're trying to figure out that change, right? And you're trying to figure out everything else that goes along with that change. It's not necessarily the individual that's with you, right, that forced the problem. And I think, and forgive me for jumping into the late session, but that individual sometimes can either carry you or hurt you, right? It's either, they're complimenting you or they're not complimenting you, right? So for my case, it's an enormous compliment. My wife is not only my pillar, she's my best friend, as I said before. So with that being said, I'm not sure what's going on with the other, individuals listening in or in our audience here, but I see a lot, not necessarily of myself, but a lot of people around me that don't realize their own potential. You know what I mean? And they sit there and they give and give to that individual, try to help that individual, or, guys, all of us in this room, I can tell you right now, are guys that want to save anything and help anything and do whatever they can to.
They want to fix.
Yes, lack of a better word, fix.
Yeah.
That old book back in, what was it, early 90s, Men Are From Venus, Women From Mars.
Sounds right.
All the way around.
That was a joke.
Men Are From Mars.
It was a joke. Whatever.
Okay.
I was trying. Thank you.
Different planets.
Different planets, right?
Yeah.
But I read that quite a few times, right? And I sat there and I was like, what a crock of shit. I was like,
It's a bestseller for.
Nah, I know it was, but I'm like, God damn, what a crock of shit. But I sat there and I was like, most of all, I sat there and thought about the individual I was with at the time, which was my wife. Not now, but before. She was from Pluto, right? So I mean, it was just, it's not even a planet. It's not even a planet anymore.
Dwarf planet.
You really got to understand what's in your life. I think this is what I'm getting, and it's what I'm getting from you. You got to understand what's in your life. You got to understand what's valuable in your life.
Yes.
Right. And for me, it sucks ass for me to sit there and look at my wife every day, go to work. Right.
Yeah.
No matter if I cook for her breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, which I do. I enjoy that. But I enjoy that for my friends too when they come over, which hopefully Super Bowl Sunday, my friends come over to my home.
Oh, we're doing it at your place now?
I think so now.
I'm
it's
going to get like
cold
3
as
more
fuck.
heaters
So
out here.
We're going to come to my house. So it's Nate, and hopefully you're going to come. You're invited as well. Everybody here's invited. But anyway, I enjoy those things, right? It's not what I'm doing to help her. I'm not helping her by doing those things. Even though she appreciates it, I'm not giving anything. I don't always give, right? So financially, I think that's where most of all relationships look at. What are you contributing to our success financially?
Well, sometimes you actually take a little bit of spite when the other person is giving more. That's where you're coming from without realizing it. I think is that
I don't think so, because
it's not.
Our salaries flipped many a time, right?
All right, so I'm gonna do this. What are you gonna say?
So you're looking at just from the financial aspect. You're not helping the household because you just recently lost your job, but you brought up like all the things that you're doing for your wife. Like, have you ever asked her like whether or not she appreciates those things?
Oh, I don't have that. I don't have to ask.
She appreciates those things.
I ask her all the time.
Oh, okay. Steve does. Steve sees her more than I
Steve's
do.
been on a reciprocal end of that.
But no, wait, hold on.
Uh,
But no, so you may not see the benefit because right now you're not bringing in a paycheck, but you're doing things for her. And if someone were to ask her, like, how is Sonny providing for you? She's probably going to mention the fact that you get up and you make her breakfast, you pack her lunch, you make dinner. It may not be monetary, but you're providing something.
It's not enough.
It may
You're giving
All right,
more than you think.
but she's enjoying what you are giving her.
All right, so let me go back to this injury thing, right? So, all right, you get injured, right? You get fired. You come out of this. You lose a relationship, right? And your friends are around you. Sonny, don't go anywhere. I'm fucking talking to you. Jesus Christ. Someone get this guy some whiskey. Yeah. All right. All right. So I try to write down some notes here just so I wouldn't forget it. When you get injured, right? You get fired, right? You lose someone in your life, death-wise, personal relationship, whatever. This has been a very, very tough year. We have experienced, I feel like, a time where all the normal things have now been multiplied exponentially because it's out of our control. So here are my questions and I'll bring Sonny back on here, or any of you guys back on here, and then also the virtual audience. When you get injured, do you allow yourself to take the help? You're stubborn, right? So do you allow the expert like going back to the injury? This is a physical thing, right? Going back to the athlete side, you blow out your knee, you hurt your shoulder, whatever. Do you allow the expert to help you back and get you the help you need? So your romantic support system, too, your wife, your husband, your significant other. Do you allow them to support you and listen to them? Do you just turtle up again? Do you just shell up and just be like, no, I'm miserable and I just want to do this? Or when you're ready to get back out there, right? So that you actually have maybe accepted the help forcefully sometimes. Do you baby the injury? Do you actually take the time to realize that I'm not always going to be 100%, 110%, whatever it is? I get knocked down. And at that point, you accept the help. You accept the person taping up your knee. You accept the person that is putting you through the therapy. I used to be able to squat this. I used to be able to leg press this. I used to be able to just run this 40, whatever. Right? Yeah, today, yeah. Sonny put me through a leg workout. He's saying he's sore. I was like, he should have walked 2 miles with me in 17 degrees. But it was one of those things. Do you actually come back from this knockdown, whether it be job, romantic, physical? And do you baby that injury? Or do you come back and say, I trust the support system that had me get back to what they now say, you're good. And you get back out there, you get back out on the field, and you're like, all right, I'm going to just trust it. Or do you actually baby it, and now you're 100%. Now you're 80% because you're actually doing this at a lower level because you don't want to hurt yourself again.
So when I played sports, if I had suffered an injury, which, throughout the years I did, I milked the trainers for every piece of help that I could get.
That's good mentality.
Because the way I looked at it was, okay, that's their role, that's their job. I'm hurt. Here's the treatment. They know what treatment I need. I'm going to milk it for all it's worth. Once I got back out onto the playing field, I played absolutely as hard as I could.
That's the mentality I feel like you should have.
Because that's why I'm out there. If I'm not able to complete 100%, then the guy who's my backup should be out there.
The biggest part of that is allowing yourself to heal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you get back out on that field too early,
you can re-injure
This
yourself.
is going back to the give and take thing, right? Let's bring back, back to the topic. If you are just giving, you want to make that coach happy. You want to make yourself happy, and you're not fully healed. You haven't taken anything, and you get back out there, you're going to fail again. You're going to fail again. You're going to fail again because you're not letting yourself take what you need in.
You're going to ultimately hurt yourself to the point where you won't be able to play again.
And then it's over.
Yeah, that's possible. But there were some times because I knew the team relied on me to a certain extent, that there were times that even though physically I may not have been at 100%, if they put me out there, I was still going to give everything I could.
You're loyal.
Even if it wasn't all that I had before,
yeah,
I was still going to give all that I could, because all that I could then may have been better than, me just being on the sidelines.
Absolutely. All right. So we're getting to this point. Who wants to start on closing remarks? Don't point fingers. I asked a question.
I can start. It's all right.
Dustin, get in there.
So, with the whole give or take, I think it's not necessarily a matter of one or the other. I think it's give and take.
Yes.
Versus, one or the other. And it's a matter of personal judgment in a sense, but at the same time, you have to be able to take a step back and refocus and make that realization that if you need to take control, then you need to do that as far as yourself goes. I think it's a matter of perspective on how you look at it. It's not necessarily always taking from others or, taking advantage of others. But you have to be able to accept the help that you may get. But you also have to be able to take control of the situation to better yourself and, in a way, better others around you. So, it's a form of giving by simply taking. And, like I mentioned earlier, there may be times in your life where, you feel like you're giving, but you're going to have to give more and kind of put yourself on the back burner for a moment. I'm not saying that's going to have to be prolonged or it's going to be a long period of time that continues, because there has to be a realization there that you have to be able to take that step back. But at the same time, like I said, if the time comes where you have to give more, especially when it's those, your immediate family or your close friends, that you have to give a little bit more to help them, be that life preserve to help reel them in, to kind of help guide them in the direction that they need to take to better themselves.
Love it. Nate, you're writing down some stuff.
Yeah, because I'd written some stuff down, and some of it relates to different aspects of giving and taking that we've talked about. Like whether it's charity, relationships, or work, one of the things I was thinking about was, are you giving to elevate others or to elevate you?
Okay.
Explain. Sometimes, like when we were talking about charity at the beginning of part 2, sometimes we give to that charity because it makes us feel good. Sometimes we're actually, and that's why I was saying earlier, like, I'd rather give my time and energy because I feel that elevates other people more than if I just give financially. If I sit there and I cut them a check, it, might make me feel good for a little bit, but I think giving time and energy makes that effort better, but it also makes you better. Like, both parties are able to benefit from that.
Yeah.
When I think about friendships, and this is something that something a little bit more recent. Sometimes a friend might come to you because something's going on in their life, and they need help, sometimes they need help, sometimes they just need someone to talk to. Are you giving you, or are you giving your opinion? And there's a difference between the two. Like if someone comes up to you and like, hey, here's what I'm going through, and you just sit there and spout out whatever's on your mind, whatever your opinion is, that may or may not benefit that person. But if you're giving yourself to be available to that person, I think that's a bigger benefit.
Okay.
Like if a friend of mine came to me because they were going through something,
yeah,
me being available for them to come to is probably more beneficial than anything I have to say.
I like that.
Because that gives them a chance to actually talk to you and work out things. It goes back to that active listening.
Yeah.
Just because someone comes to me doesn't mean I have to say everything that's in my mind. It doesn't mean I have to sit there and tell them what to do. Sometimes you just need to be there for that person. But I think with all those aspects, it also speaks to the motive. What is your motive for giving? What is your motive for taking? If your motive for giving is to benefit the other party, that's great. I think it's better though if your motive is to improve them and improve yourself. And going back to the taking part of it, is taking going to help you, or is it going to help you help others? Like, don't take and feel selfish about taking. Take so that way you can return the favor, and that you can then give because you have received.
Mic drop.
No, these mics are expensive.
I know.
The only people that say mic drops are people that don't know how expensive mics are.
All right. So, quick recap. Thank you to Brandon from Bourbon Charity being a part of part one. Check out episode 154, part one for Bourbon Charity. They're doing amazing things. Huge. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to get bigger and bigger. And I think we're going to get more involved in that from a podcast standpoint and a community standpoint. Thank you for Tinder Box at Easton for supplying the Leaf by Oscar Sumatra. Also Altadis. I'm smoking the Monte Cristo Espada Oscuro, which I absolutely adore this cigar.
Do you think it went better with this rye?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. BS Cigar Company. Gold probably go better. My personal favorite.
Gold goes with everything.
Gold goes
very
with everything.
well.
BS Cigar Company. So yeah, check that out. Patreon.com/BourbonBS podcast. You guys are amazing. I hope you guys continue to share it and get more people involved. Not because, again, we're not a charity, but it does help. I'm not going to feel guilty if we make a little bit more cushion of money to do better things with this. Travel when COVID opens back up. Do things with this. It's not a guilty thing to take from people. When you are giving or taking, I'm of the opinion that a lot of people, even though they think it is a selfless act, it's because they think that they're doing the right thing and they put the blinders on. They think that they're giving because the other party involved is going to appreciate and they're going to be thankful for it because they think they have the other party's best interest in mind, and they shut off that active listening. They think that they are helping people, but they're helping blindly sometimes because they are just doing what they think is right. They're not doing what they think they don't listen to what the other person or the other party needs. They're in control of the situation. They're doing these things because they think that this is what that other person wants and needs. And that other person or party, that's not what they need. It's a two-way street. Same thing when you take. You can open yourself up to take because the other person wants to help. The other party wants to help. But if you don't have a communication with that other party, they can't. There's a miscommunication. There is you're missing the lines there. So that's where I think that we always come back to this. I feel like on this podcast is that it's always about communication. So if you're giving, make sure you're giving the right stuff. Don't give what you think you need to give. Give what you think the other person needs, and listen to what they actually need. The person, the party, the job, whatever. You have to, it's not what you're projecting onto that other party, because you might actually miss. You give, and it blows up in your face because you didn't listen to what they actually needed or what they're asking for. Mm-hmm. So giving is useless if you're giving the wrong shit.
Give with a purpose.
Give with a purpose, but it's give them what they need.
Yeah.
But you have to hear them out. And when you take, make sure that they can give you what you need. Whether it be an ear, whether it be finances, whether it be something. You don't want to make, you have to think these things through before you act. Before you say something, you have to realize, know your audience. You have to know your audience. Whatever side, whatever situation you're in, you have to know your audience so that when you come to them, they can handle it, whether you're giving or you're taking. Because when you miss your audience, it's on deaf ears. There's more separation. It's not going to make sense no matter what. If you're giving, it's going to be missed on that audience. If you're taking, you're not going to get what you need. This is a very, there's self-awareness, and it's a self-assessment. You have to, this goes back to what we were talking about. You have to really assess yourself and take care of yourself before you give or you take. And if you do that, that's when it happens. You help someone else if you're giving, and you actually get help if you are taking, or you need to take. You're vulnerable. But if you just impose your will on someone, whichever side of the scenario you're on, it's not going to work. It is a lower probability that you are going to get help or you're going to give help if you just do what you want to do or what you think is right. Because it's a one-way street, taking or receiving. That's what I think about that.
Well said.
Justin says Crane
Mic
2024.
He beat me to it.
Fuck. Ryan says preach on, Brother Crane. Guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Thank you for everyone being involved. I love this episode. I didn't know what to think of it. I'm happy we came up with this, the topic about 2 hours before.
Great job.
I told you 5 minutes before. Cheers, guys. Next week, I'm looking forward to it. We have
Spencer
and Amy
Scherzinger from McClellan's Pub.
Yes. So we're going to get dive into what's been going on in the bar and industry world, bar and restaurant industry world. I'm looking forward to it.
And she's hoping that by the time she's on next week, some things will change.
Yes.
In that side.
Always rolling forward. Guys, cheers.
Cheers.
Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Everyone out there, we're going to get some more information about Bourbon Charity, and I'm looking forward to donating on behalf of the podcast, on behalf of the crowd. And I'd be interested to see what we all raise for this event coming up on February 14th. And if we win a bottle, we'll do it on the podcast. Guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday.